So what'd you think
Of what?
of the show we just watched?
That could be a lot of
Of
shows,
Act
actually.
Two? Oh my gosh.
Oh, League of Legends, my favorite video
Yeah.
game.
Your favorite.
Holy fuck.
Holy
Act 2
moly.
is so much better than Act 1, which I didn't think was possible.
Really?
There
I
were
liked Act One
things
more.
there were things that I think I have only seen directed this way in this show, like that blew me away where I was like that is actually incredible. Some of the stuff they've done. Like masterclass work. Whereas like Act 1 was really good and solid. This was like, "Oh, you're just going to blow me out of the water a little bit. All right. That's
A little
cool."
bit. Just a
Just a
little
little
taste.
bit. Mhm.
Just you wait till next act, though. But we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, yeah. I'm excited for Act 3 after this. My Act 2 predictions, though, because we wanted to go over those. Because I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
remember
let's
them.
let's start off. You just finished listening to them. I completely forgot them. What did you predict
Yeah.
for Act One or for
mu-
this act?
Much like the time skip that happened between Act 1 and Act 2, we were gone for a few weeks. We had our own little time skip within the show, this little podcast, so I forgot everything. Basically, my big takeaway was that in Act 2, Jace and Victor develop Hex Tech more. Wild jump there.
Yeah,
Crazy.
a really ambitious guess for you right
Yeah.
there.
But I was like, oh, they're going to do Act 2 where they'll build up and be like, Hex Tech can kill. And I was right. They showed weapons where you just put the little gadgety do in like the weapon. And then,
Not only did we get Hex Tech this act, we also got Sex Tech.
oh yeah, we did. I was like trying to think.
I was
I didn't mean to
like-
make awkward silence. I was like,
You can laugh at the joke.
what
if
is
you want.
what is a sex tech?
I'm waiting for season 2 where Jace gets really kinky in the bed, but we'll get there when we get to the episode.
I was waiting because I was like thinking, I'm like, was there like a prosthetic penis that like had like that just missed off screen? You put like a hex tech gemstone into that like it just makes it big or something. And I was like legitimately thinking about it for 5 seconds. I'm like, oh no, I know what you're talking about now.
No.
Because Jace fucks
Jace
real hard.
fucks.
Yeah. So I was really happy that we got those weapons. I was like, yep, they're gonna build up, and I still think that Act 3 is gonna go into like a war thing because they had like this bridge segment where they closed off the bridges and stuff and made like this really hostile relationship between the underground and Piltover.
Was that part of your Act 1 predictions?
Yes, was that Act 3 would be a big war between the two sides.
Yeah, they built up for that pretty heavily
Yeah.
from scene 1 of Act 1.
And I also got right that Heimerdinger would be like, no, magic bad.
No,
Don't do
magic
it.
bad.
Don't magic.
Meanwhile, in game, all of his abilities are just hex tech weapons.
What a
He has
fucking
what? He places
hypocrite.
turrets. He has missiles, and he throws grenades.
Nice.
So yeah, he's a bit of a warmonger.
Yeah. So I said that something bad was going to happen to him. Not that he was going to die, but something was going to tragically happen. And he did a little bit. It was very vague, which is not what I thought would happen. I thought he was going to get hurt from magic or something and then be out of the story. But he
I think
just,
Victor is gonna accidentally just zap him when he's carving that one statue.
yeah. Oops. Oh, there goes Heimerdinger's arm. Oh, no. Something like that. But what ended up happening is he just got, like, voted off the council. So, kind of right there. Singe does fucking nothing was an official prediction. And I
Was that really?
Semi-correct, yes.
You
You're like,
were
hey,
well
what do you think
correct.
Singe does? I'm like, fucking nothing. He makes Mountain Dew Code Red or something.
No, he just makes regular Mountain Dew.
He's still messing around. He did some stuff, actually, like in episode 6. Just, not really that he was doing new stuff, but just that he had more going on.
Yeah, we get to learn about his past.
I just figured he was going to do fucking nothing. Like, there wouldn't even be mention of him in Act 2, but there was. So I was kind of wrong on that.
We are.
I said that I think Act 1 was going to be better than Act 2. I disagree with that. I said that Silco and Jinx have a Joker Harley Quinn relationship. They're very clearly father-daughter. They do not fuck.
There's a bit of an age difference.
That doesn't stop most people after the age of like 18 sometimes, you know. in a grooming
Fair. I
relationship.
don't know how old she is.
I assume like 19, something like that. At the
Maybe.
earliest,
I
like
would believe it
16.
though if it was just like an exaggerated, like 16, or maybe
Yeah,
even like 15.
yeah, I could see her being like that young too. But that I don't think that would stop Silco. Honestly, I don't think he's like, blowing up the city and taking over mankind is pretty bad, but I draw the line at grooming a child. I stand for the law.
Well, to be fair, he wasn't a fan of blowing up the city. He actively yelled at her for that.
Yeah. But he is like an evil mastermind. If there was some sort of grooming thing, I wouldn't put it past him. But anyways, point being, I was wrong on that. They are very much just like, honey, my daughter, you can't blow shit up whenever you want to. That's not nice. It ruins daddy's plans.
Honey, I blew up the kids again.
Yeah. The only other prediction I have is that Jinx and Vi fucking hate each other, which was completely wrong. They don't really. They're still pretty amicable. They just kind of feel like tragically separated siblings. That was about it.
Yeah.
Was pretty close to spot on though for most of those. I was impressed by that.
Yeah. Do you have any overall general comments about the part before we get into specific episodes?
Just that the directing is phenomenal. Like, probably some of the best directing I've seen in anything. It's very impressive, experimental, whatever, superlatives you want to put in there. I genuinely mean it, though. Like, it's impressive.
You don't typically use superlatives, so I know that when you start using them, that it is something is genuinely impressive.
I just feel like a hack where I'm like, dude, these directing skills are so magnificent.
It is out of this world. It is the best I've ever seen in my life.
It made me literally come in my pants while I was watching.
Yeah.
I could not stop. Except for like, the Jace scene, that was not pleasing. Actually, anyways, episode 4.
Yeah.
I'm kind of done with overalls. Don't really have much to say.
So yeah, episode 4. We open up after post-time skip. Doesn't really say how long it's been, but we can assume like 4-ish or 5-ish years, I would say.
Everyone's basically adults now, if not young adults, all of them.
Yeah.
So at least, 5 years or something like that. Significant enough.
Yeah, our opening scene is Heimerdinger and Chase talking about an upcoming event called Progress Day. And as well as the introduction to this thing that Chase has created called Hex Skates, which are basically just methods of teleporting across countries, really. You can cross from country to country instantly. Like how he was saved from, presumably, Rise. Goodbye, teleportation.
Oh, right. That's what he did. The mage.
Yeah.
I forgot that he teleported him out of the snow into like a safe spot.
Yeah, I think it's Rise, but he's also not blue, so it's really weird because Rise is blue.
Wait, so they just changed
maybe
the
it was
man's
pre-blue
race?
Rise. Well, I mean, maybe it wasn't Rise.
It'd be funny
But
if it was Rise.
Rise
It's just
is-
like, I'm not blue.
One of Rise's like primary things, he teleports. There's a whole cinematic where he teleports around the world and he's like a traveler. So it makes sense that it's Rise. Plus, he's known as the Rune Mage, and so he had runes. He was a mage, so we just assume it's Rise. But anyways, Jace is chosen to give the Progress Day speech.
Can't everyone recall in League of Legends? Like, is
I
that not
think
like
that's-
teleportation?
I think that's not like in real life they can recall, but while they're
okay.
participating in the game of League of Legends, they can.
Okay. I just figured it was like a lore thing where it's like Rise has like the teleportation recall ability and everyone's like, yeah, I can just do that. Big whoop-de-doo.
Well, it's also like I don't just like, beat up a guy on the side of the road and then get $5. Well, okay, maybe I could.
If you're creative enough, you can.
If someone is beating up a guy and I come and punch him and last hit him, do I get the gold?
Yeah. If you knock him out.
Okay, cool. Anyways, Heimerdinger gives some speech about the founder of the academy, and how he gave up his like inventing career to help other students, and then he's like, Jace, I want you to give the speech, and then we just cut to the festival of Progress Day, where Jace is with the Kiermans, and we get to see Caitlyn as a guard.
What did Caitlyn do before? Was she like just a student?
She was
before?
nobility.
Because, okay, yeah. I didn't really know what she did before. She just kind of seemed like a woman sitting around doing nothing.
No, she was a child before.
I don't know if she was like a student, or that's what I was wondering.
No, she was like a child.
Because they just kind of, in Act 1, she was like, sit there and look pretty. And I was like, oh, okay.
My main problem with Caitlyn is that she really wants to be an enforcer, and we don't know why. And for a character, like when a character breaks tradition, you typically got to explain why.
I feel like we got that answer a little bit, like, because we kind of see her later in a couple episodes where she's like, running around the city with Vi, and she's like taking care of her. It's like she wants to be like, what exactly is an enforcer? Is it just kind of like a guard?
It's a cop.
Cop. Yeah. So she wants to be like a noble cop. That's what I feel like. It kind of gets justified with like everything through Vi. It's answered indirectly.
Her personality justifies it, but like we don't know her ambitions, and it's just so random where it's like, hey, I'm the daughter of nobility, I'm gonna go be a cop. It's like, no, wait, can you explain why? It's literally the meme of, I'm gonna go become a cop, can you elaborate? No.
I didn't feel like that, honestly. It doesn't directly explain it, but I feel like after a few episodes, it's kind of implied that it's like, I don't want to just be nobility. I want to be on the ground helping people. Like, and I think she sees that just as being a cop and changing the law system. I don't know
think she really wanted
why
to change
cop?
the law system. Because
Not necessarily.
She wasn't like, I want to help the people that are misseen and misjudged. Because when she meets Vi, she just straight up says, you're all the same. So she sees them in the same light as all other cops, really.
Yeah, but it's more like, I feel like I took it more like not changing laws or whatever, but just being on the ground and being able, like, she has a passion for detective stuff, first of all, like with the photography stuff we see later on, but that
I kind of wish that passion was built up, though, where it's like, I did this as a kid because we see her as a kid. Nothing from Act 1 translates to, like, oh, she'll become an enforcer, detective, something like that. It's just like she was a kid who didn't like doing what her parents told you, led to being a cop somehow. Whereas other people's, like, their path, Jace's father was a hammer maker. He made tools for the people, so Jace wants to make tools for the people. Something like that, where it's like they have a clear path that leads their character to, like, they have a goal. Like, what is Caitlyn's goal? She never says it. And she has plenty of chances to like, explain herself to Vi, or even.
I just figured, like, I don't know. Act 1 Vi is... I mean, not Act 1 Vi. Act 1 Caitlyn isn't really a character, so there wasn't really anything to, like, build off of, and that was just
I think that
fine.
Was the problem.
I just rolled with it.
Yeah.
It gets explained, like, through her actions and everything. I didn't think about her before that, really. Because I just didn't even think about her when I was watching Act 1, even. Because she just wasn't really even on screen. So I was just like, alright. This is basically like a new character. I didn't even really consider her as a child as being part of the story whatsoever. So, that's why I feel that way.
Yeah. Anyways, then we cut to the airport after Jace and Caitlyn talk a little bit. They don't really say anything important from what I remember.
There was a joke I liked there, though.
What was the joke?
Jace's mom was like, oh, he's a very busy man when he's, like, walking off, and then immediately he just walks up to flick Caitlyn in the head.
I got timetables for this.
It was pretty funny. It just... Because the mom, I don't know, it was one of those things where it was just immediately like...
She was just trying to cover her ass. It was like, he's not here because he's busy.
Yeah, and I thought she was like, had the perception of like, oh, he's busy doing, whatever stuff. And she walks up and is like, hey, Caitlyn. What's up?
So then after that, we cut to the airport where we get to meet a new faction, the Firelights. We don't really know a whole lot about them.
Oh, I thought that was a boat. I just realized that is an airport, isn't it?
Yeah, they're
it's not in the water.
Yeah, they're airships. That's how most of like the trading stuff is like. We see airships doing that. That's how the hex gates work, are by airships. So we meet the Firelights, which are just some gang that aren't really explained in this act. They're kind of just an antagonizing force against Silco's crew, from what we can realize. And in this scene, they attempt to stop Silco smuggling the drug from the first part we learn now is called Shimmer. And so he's trying to smuggle Shimmer. And so they come and they attack, and a few of them go into the underside where Jinx has laid a trap. Powder is now Jinx, we know her as.
I do like this opening shot, by the way, where I just figured it was going to be some like monster down there, like of purple goo. Oh, before we get to that, actually, there was this one shot where they're like getting on the ship and taking it over, where they instantly, you recognize it's like Silco crew because they have like these purple veins on their face. That was just like a really cool sign where you didn't have to say anything. Just good directing there. But really good directing is underneath when they're like, looking around and you hear like creaking, and then suddenly there's just a fucking empty swing set. Just down in the boat.
Just in the airship.
In the airship. She like was down there long enough. She built like a swing set. And you're like, oh, she's freaky,
That's
dude.
believable. She just wants to swing while she's waiting to get robbed.
And then she goes like, ooga booga, and like gets the guys. And
stupid dog, you make me look bad.
Yeah.
She pulls out her comically large hammer and smacks one of them.
Why does Jinx actually have a comically large hammer?
No.
That's a Harley Quinn thing, right?
No. Yes, that's a Harley Quinn thing. I don't blame you for getting them confused.
For some reason, I was like, I feel like she should have a hammer. Yeah, I think she, really cool introduction, because I didn't even think it was going to be Jinx. I was like, oh shit, she's here already. And when we see her bombs and everything, they're like this cool improvement in this action scene on her like old bombs.
And they work now.
Yeah, they work and they're terrifying. They just incinerate people now.
Oh yeah, I like in game there's just supposed to be some crowd control tool where if you step on them you just can't move, but in here they just kill you.
Oh, they're crowd control in the game?
Yeah, you throw them down, they sit there, they chomp. They're called chompers. They just chomp for a little bit. They don't move, and if you step on one you just can't move for a little bit.
I just figured if you stepped on one you would just take 200 damage or something. It'd just be like explosion. Just like Teemo
it does no damage.
Mushroom. I don't play much League of Legends, so I absorb most of it through osmosis, but that's what I figured it'd be. That's all I really have to say on that, honestly.
Then she goes to fight them on the top side as there are still more. And when she's fighting one of them, she punches their mask off and sees, a redheaded kid who she mistakes for Vi. And kind of starts to freak out, and so we get to see that Jinx has got there's a little bit going on up there.
Yeah, she's she's not all there.
She just shoots the kid.
I thought it was Vi, actually. I got a little confused, like, what the fuck, why is Vi dead? Well, I know she doesn't die.
At the beginning of this act, we don't know where Vi is. We just know Marcus drugged her, and then drug and then drug her.
Yeah.
So we don't know where Vi is. Drug squared. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed the violin music in this scene. Given the track record of the show, I would have expected some kind of pop song, but the violin music is very nice.
Oh, we killed your sister. She is dead. Oh.
Well, Jinx is supposed to believe that her sister is dead at the beginning of this part, because that's what Silco believes, because that's what Marcus has told him.
Yeah. She's dead.
At the end of this scene, Jinx failed to guard the cargo, which was her job. So Savika, the one with the robot arm, is
that her
upset.
Name?
Savika, yeah.
I had no clue.
Well, I had to Google it, so if that means anything to you. They say her name like twice in the show.
I just I guess I was taking notes during both of those or something. I just never got it.
Yeah. So, anyways, we then cut to Victor and Jace's workshop as Heimerdinger comes to visit. They wanted to show him a new project. They have created Hextech gemstones, which are the same unstable crystals that they have now managed to stabilize. And with it, they show off some potential uses where they're not meant to be weapons at first, but we later learn them to be weapons, with one being the Atlas gauntlets, which Vi ends up using, and the other one being a mining laser, which Victor actually ends up using as a weapon in game.
Yeah, I recognize both of those because you've shown me like 12,000 Victor arts over the years where you're like, dude, it's Victor. I'm like, oh, he's got like the claw thing on his back. And that's like the one thing I noticed about him. So I was really happy when I recognized that. And Vi's gauntlets, of course, because they're big fists, you know.
Yeah, big.
They're just big.
Big.
I liked how they looked really unstable, too. I don't know if they looked like that generally when they're fighting in this show later on. But it looked really unrefined. I think
that was the point.
Yeah.
Was this is new tech, and that's why Heimerdinger is like, oh, you gotta wait for it to stabilize. But when he's carving the statue of Heimerdinger, just like into there, he cuts the rock at the very end. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah,
he just straight up
splits.
slices the rock at the end, and it's just like, oh, is anyone gonna say anything about that? But it was a nice little detail where they're like, well, we did 90%. It worked 90% of the way. That's good enough, right?
Yeah, like the especially like with Jason the gauntlet, the idea is that you pick up the rock and then like he splits it. I don't know if that was intentional either because it looks like his hand is shaking the whole time.
It's like he's barely managing to control it, or it's barely managing to stay together, something like that.
That's what I figured
nice
was supposed to be. It was supposed to be unrefined, but like part of me was like, I don't know League of Legends, so that might just be how they work. Is that you just get the shakies whenever you use the gauntlets?
No, we get to see Vi in the show use them next act.
Yeah, I've seen in the intro when Imagine Dragons was like, dude, remember when Vi gets the gauntlets? And then they just like, Imagine Dragons! Or whatever in the background.
Like how every band just says their name.
I'm just... they're like Pokemon. You know? Go! Imagine Dragons! Imagine Dragons!
What element would Imagine Dragons be? Oh, they'd be dragon type, of course!
But also idiot. Fairy type for the dreams. They'd be dual class.
Wait, so would they be weak against themselves?
Yeah, I mean they make some like things like that, like water rock types, where like they get the resistances, you know.
It's weird.
Anyways, it balances out.
Heimerdinger is impressed, but he also wants to wait a decade before they bring the technology to the public, because he's afraid that people will misuse it if they just immediately launch it out to the public without any safeguards or systems, infrastructure in place to combat, or not combat, prevent the wrong people from getting it.
Yeah, but also because Heimerdinger's fucking old, so he's like, oh, 10 years. And it's like, that's...
Yeah, it'll go in the blink of an eye.
A quarter of our life if we die young. More like an eighth of our life. I misjudged the math.
A quarter of our life? When do you plan on dying?
Oh, hopefully not anytime soon, but,
I plan to live forever.
Things happen. Yeah, That's
the plan.
I spite death, so I just will never die. It's easy. But yeah, Heimerdinger is just like... It's funny. I was like, a decade, it passes the blink of the eye. And it's like, dude, fucking, how long do you think we live for?
So then we cut again to Caitlin sneaking off from her guard post to investigate the cargo ship that was attacked by the Firelights, where she kind of just takes a bunch of pictures and then eventually finds a criminal. Big boy?
I liked this is where like the directing went from like standard, because like there were some good scenes in Act 1, but this was like the first example of like really phenomenal directing, and I don't think it's like the best in the act. At the time I did, and I was just instantly blown away by like the next couple scenes. But she's like taking pictures of things, and there's like overlays of flashbacks of what's happening, like, and she's following the trajectory of bullets falling, and you're like, oh, she's like really intuitive, and you can like follow the whole thought process. And it's this really, really creative way of just, expressing like her detective skills. And it's really cool. I love that shot so much.
Yeah, that was kind of the point where I was like, why is she doing this? But we already had that.
Yeah.
I just think that someone being good at something doesn't justify them wanting to do it.
Sorry, I missed that last part.
I said someone being good at something doesn't justify them wanting to do it.
I I mean, kind of, but like, I don't know, if you're good enough at something, and she looked like she was solving it really fast and being really passionate about it, she snuck off to do it.
That's fair.
And then later in her room, we'll get to it later, but she's like doing the Pepe Silvia thing where she like has the red strings everywhere. I know that's just a detective thing. It's not a Pepe Silvia thing, but like,
no, we're calling it a Pepe Silvia
it's
thing.
Pepe Silvia. So she's like really passionate about it. And like, I think at that point, you know, you could tell it's like she's good at it, but also she's like passionate about it. That's why I think she wants to join the enforcers as like, as, you know, chief officer Sherlock Holmes or whatever, and go like, she wants to make a difference in the world. That's what sold me on it, was that. But also how she, when she found the criminal, was like, hey, I'll tend to your wounds. She's not a bad person. She just wants to like stop crime. And he's like, well, he's incapacitated. Might as well like help him a little bit.
I think my problem is she wants to stop crime. We don't get a why. It's just like, shut up. She wants to stop crime. Accept that.
I don't think it's like crime necessarily. I was just meant like she wants to put out in the world like helping people, because as like a noble woman, she doesn't get to do anything.
I think like, my problem with it is that none of this is ever explicitly stated, and we just kind of have to infer.
That's, I think, our difference is that I like when stuff is not explicitly stated, and you're like,
no, I do too. I don't want everything told
like,
to me.
holy cow, you know.
There is no like, I think there is no evidence for her just going from nobility to escaping her noble life, unlike someone like Mel.
I don't know what
where
is.
She was kind of we'll see that in Act 3, actually. I remember now.
But like another thing that I like about Caitlyn is she's offered that position back of like just being a like figurehead, and she rejects it because she's like, I don't want any pity. I don't want to go back to that life. That's what also sold me on it. There's a lot of stuff like that where it just, that's what worked for me for the character. But I feel like we're talking in circles. But
yeah,
you know.
So let's see. She talks to a prisoner. She gets caught by Marcus, who we learn that Marcus is now the new sheriff. The guy from Act 1 who kind of sold everyone out.
Just kind of, though.
Just a little bit.
Little bit. Sold everyone out.
And then after that, as a punishment, she's given the graveyard shift. And then we cut to the Undercity. And there's some really bad pop dubstep. But at least it's fitting because we're in a club, I guess.
Yeah, I was disoriented by it. I was like, holy cow, this is like... Wait, I think we skipped some stuff. No, never mind. I looked too far down. I skipped some stuff. Yeah, the club is very disorienting. And I was like, yeah, this feels like a club. Because they have like the music cranked up to 11. Like, not where it hurts your ears, but it's just like that kind of droning effect with like the visuals. And you're like, yeah, this feels like a club.
Oh, this also it's just a very busy song too. They used that song for one of the trailers, you know, and that's what made me lose faith in the show for a while. I was like, oh, they decided to choose this song as a trailer song. Well, they also did this thing where it's like, Vi does this, she like crushes something, but then they play it like 3 times in a row to the beat, and I'm like, this looks awful. I'm gonna have to send that trailer to you. I meant to show you it at some point. I think I have shown it to you at some point, but it's been a while.
I've only seen like the one to the Imagine Dragons song about like the misery, I think is the one you showed me. But
yeah, I like when Echo is driving a bike and that one just flicks off the enforcers. I think that's really funny.
I on the club music, I would not listen to it. I like what it does in the show though a lot. Yes. It is very clearly like, yeah, this is really loud club music.
It was like, yeah,
it's very overwhelming.
Like, well, it's not good, but that's the point, I guess. So Savika's pissed off that Jinx failed to protect the cargo and shot at them. But she's complaining to Silco about this.
She did do that.
And Silco defends Jinx. This is the first time we see Silco actually this act. And personally, I was a bit disappointed that we did a time skip because I kind of wanted to watch the progression of Silco become attached to Jinx. Because Silco is a very the majority of Act 1 all the way to the end, Silco is a very I trust no one kind of guy. And now we cut to Act 2 and a flip is switched where now he just becomes dependent on Jinx almost, like emotionally, in the matter of a single episode. So it's explained through a time skip. It just would have been nice to watch that progress.
I agree. I'm sorry for laughing. You said a flip is switched. It was funny.
My best joke. I'm a comedic genius.
You made
realize it.
You made a good point though, where it's just like, yeah, it'd be nice to see it, even in just like a 30-second montage of like, you know, like just crossfades and Jinx getting older, and he's like, oh, well, here's a little thing I'd do to trust you. Here's a little bit more, because he's got like a fatherly like. I can't think of the right word, but like, you know how parents have
Paternal?
like a blind trust of their kids. I didn't want to use the word irrational because it is completely rational, but it's like
It's paternal.
Paternal, yeah. This really paternal bond of like, yeah, I don't trust people, but you're my kid. You're special. You know, we got to stick together as like a pack of
and it
whatever.
feels like he wants to be. He doesn't want to be Vander, but he's slowly turning into a very flawed Vander in a paternal sense.
Yeah.
And so he's slowly, without realizing it, becoming the thing that betrayed him.
I really
in a
liked...
weird way. Not completely. Definitely not completely. I'm not saying that, like, oh, he's turning into a good guy, obviously.
Just father instincts. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I think he's getting a new perspective. And maybe he'll learn to understand what Vander felt.
I like when he's talking to the Void, where it's like, I forget what he says, but it's just like something about like, you know, that mission, I can't keep defending you like this or something like that. And then it just pans, like, Jinx is just in the rafters.
Oh, yeah. I like that. She's just there.
And then he jumps down on his desk, pops a squat. I was like, no, I didn't mean it. Dad, I'm sorry. It's like, fucking stop, Jinx, please.
I really liked that Jinx didn't immediately become competent after switching sides. She stayed a liability no matter what side she was on. And this time it wasn't her tools failed her, it's just her judgment failed her. Yeah. Or her judgment failed them.
And that could also like play into how
she is a Jinx.
But also Silco is not like a father figure like Vander is, where Vander has like that whole combat kind of training. Silco is like a slimy, you know, lizard on the back lines. He doesn't really know how to like fight really.
Well, Vander also knew how to be tough on his children, and I don't think Silco knows how to do that because Silco himself is pretty like reliant on their relationship, and it feels like on an emotional level.
Yeah, but that's definitely why Jinx is lacking in those areas of just like he doesn't really know like how to teach her like, you know, when to hold your judgment like in combat and stuff like that, but also just like emotional. He doesn't know how to like, you know, stand against his daughter and be like, all right, bud, you need to stop.
She doesn't answer to pretty much any authority, whereas Vi has to answer to an absolute authority, which is an interesting dynamic. Right,
yeah, definitely.
She could just get away with things, as seen here, because Silco would let her off with things. And that's kind of a recurring theme throughout this act. Whereas Vi is in prison.
The ultimate authority, wall, 4 sides, and ceiling.
I was going to say the police.
Oh, I just meant him being in jail.
And the wall itself.
Yeah. I do like, we see it a little bit later more so, but the Jinx, like, blinking effect, where she's, like, kind of popping around, and then just, like, there's scribbles on the screen, where it's, like really good, one of those directing things where it's, like, you instantly get, like, oh, like, her mind is fuzzy, and, like, all over the place, and scratchy. It really fits. It was good.
Yeah. Then we go to Mel's party, the counselor, and she's talking about Jace, and we get to see that she sees Jace as a tool to kind of gain power. where she's talking about he is useful. He is a man of like of the future. He's becoming a symbol.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of like using these objectifying terms where he is something I can use.
Yeah, I don't have much to say on it.
And then just shows up to the party. He talks to Mel about Heimerdinger and how he wants to delay it, and she ends up pushing him to move forward with the tech.
Yeah, and show it off. It's like, do we show it off like it's ready, or we don't, and we wait and develop it and refine it before we go public?
And she's just saying, show that shit off.
It's
loud and proud, baby.
It's 200 year of progress year of the town. Progress festival, do it. Versus Heimerdinger's like, there's like 10,000 things that could go wrong and you could ruin the world. And so he's like, I gotta think this one over.
Progress, maybe. Maybe not. So then we cut to Jinx just blowing shit up. That's her method of venting, I guess.
I
and
love
this is when
it
we get to
so
see,
much.
Then we get to see the shadow of like Milo, where it's just like a doll sitting in the corner, and we know it's talking because it's like its eyes light up and it's saying something to her. We don't really need to hear what it's saying because she responds to it in a way that basically tells us what he's saying. And she's worried that Silco sees her as weak. So then her determination is that she needs to show her strength, that she is not a liability, because that's what she thinks her sister thought of her as. Because at the very end, she just said, "You're a Jinx," and kind of, you fucked it, kid.
Yeah. There's so much I like about this scene. I could gush about it for hours, but
I like the special effects a lot.
How we open up. Scene. I imagine like she's skipping pebbles across a lake, but it's just bombs into a ravine, where she's just like, that's her like tranquil thing, and it's just like that parallel was really cool. And then like as she's descending into madness with like the dolls over, you know, she's made dolls out of her dead friends, and there's like scribbles all over their eyes that come to life and like in the background of like her visions. I'm just like, dude, she's like, you get where she's coming from, where she's just literally insane. And it's such a clear, like, you get exactly not just that she is like processing trauma and not coping well with it. It's really fucked her up. It's like, you get exactly how it fucked her up. And the very like distinct emotions, like through the lines, like on the screen, and like the, you know, chaotic back and forth. It's like, also it feels like almost there's something else going on, like something along the lines like of schizophrenia, where it's like you're just seeing visions and like it's fucking with your head. I like how Clagger doesn't even get a full doll. He's just like a keychain.
Yeah, well,
she ran out of materials.
Clagger didn't
like,
say much, did he?
Clagger gets a little pocket doll, and Milo gets the full-on like 6-foot doll.
When Milo was just an asshole.
Real champ Clagger, neglected by Jinx. He's like 3 inches tall, just to clarify, maybe a little bit taller than that, but that, if you haven't seen the show, it's so funny.
He's just kind of hanging up there too.
He's just so tiny, because I was like expecting like, oh, there's the Milo one, where's Clagger? Oh,
there's Clagger.
He's kind of there. You're cool, Jinx. And she's just talking to herself. We get like her process, and just like the directing in this it's so good. Episode 5 is where like this shines a lot more, but like just as an introductory scene, just we really instantly get like where Jinx is at mentally, where she's like, she's not fully insane, she's still like kind of gripping onto like her past life, but like she's
Powder's still in there somewhere.
Yeah,
and it feels like Powder's fighting to like show herself, and sometimes that manifests as Milo or Clagger.
Mm-hmm. And she's repressing it with like childlike tendencies, which is very interesting, because I don't like baby crazy characters, but this one I really like, because she just she's like the baby childlike talk, because she's just like, she never grew up, and it really makes sense. And like I really buy a lot of her character. Just really sold on that.
On first watch, I didn't like her because I just don't like the video game character Jinx. This second watch, it sold me a lot more on her. And Act 3, she is when she really shines as a character, especially emotionally.
I'm excited for that.
Anyways, enough Jinx time. Victor time. He's just, I guess it's Victor and Jace, which is mostly just Jace time. But we cut to Victor coughing, and Jace is just offering him, hey, come walk up, give this speech with me, you're my partner. And I really like that Jace is still pretty grounded in like that they're equals. That's nice that in a lot of other media, it typically gets to someone's head. And so it's interesting to see what it's like. They're grounded in each other's partnership, which is nice, wholesome bond. But he refuses anyways.
I hate the cliche so much of like the power going to the head, so I'm really happy they didn't do that. Like,
yeah,
it's played out, and they're brothers, you know.
Yeah,
it's good.
And I really think Victor is refusing to go up just because he doesn't like, not that he doesn't like Piltover people. He's afraid of being accepted by them because he's from the Undercity, which I can't wait for season 2 where we can just call it Zon.
I also really liked, just because it makes sense for him. We see later on that he, like, even as a kid, he played like alone and was a very like separated individual. He doesn't like
even in the Undercity.
People. Yeah, it's not like a because
he'll accept people. Yeah, but people have to come to him.
He's scared of Piltover people a little bit because he's like, you know, an Undercity guy. But also, I think it's just like he doesn't like being around people in general. So like giving a speech in front of thousands is not really his cup of tea. He likes being kind of in the background, it feels like.
Yeah. Where are we? Oh, Jace, I don't know if you noticed this. Jace has a mug of his own face, and that was really
I was going to say, I love it so much because he slams it down. Good. I'm just like,
wait, what I just said, it didn't get through his head.
Yeah.
He has a mug of his own face.
Dude, you can't. That's just like the biggest asshole. It's like giving yourself like a best dad mug. It just doesn't. You can't.
It feels like someone else gave it to him, though, given his personality, where he's just like, someone gave it to me, I gotta use it, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like he bought it himself.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like the Michael Scott moment in The Office where he, like, buys himself the world's best boss mug and drinks out of it. Because it's just, Jace seems very much, he's not someone who wants power. He just kind of comes into power. And
he wants the power to help people. He doesn't want political power.
Yeah, he doesn't, like,
he doesn't want to be weighed down by those shenanigans.
He wants to change the world, not dictate it.
Yeah, he wants to present the power to change. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyways, he's giving a speech, and he's about to reveal the technology, but then he becomes hesitant. And so he actually decides to wait until later to show it off. Everyone's disappointed. Mel gets up and leaves.
Yeah. So does his mom.
Oh yeah, I forgot who the second person was. It was just his mom just leaves.
Man, his mom sucks. Also,
yeah.
There is like a 1.5 second shot of like Caitlyn outside right before the speech starts, and like I didn't put together that her being on night duty as punishment means she doesn't get to see the speech, even though that's obvious. But it was a nice like, oh yeah, she doesn't get to see the speech that she promised like she was gonna be able to go to and, you know, support Jace.
I didn't even realize that.
It was such a cool like, oh thank you, I'm fucking pea brain, thank you show.
That makes me smaller pea brain. I didn't catch it.
Yeah, it just like very cool. They never ever said that she was going to miss it, but they made it very clear without words, and I think that's what this show does really well.
Yeah. So anyways, then we cut to Caitlyn on her night shift, and as the punishment for leaving the cargo ship. Some people shit talk her because she's nobility, but then she notices a fire in the distance, and all of them go and check out this fire. And all of them rush in to save they hear a child's voice in the fire, so all the other enforcers rush in to save him, while Caitlyn grabs a fire extinguisher and starts fire extinguishing when she notices Jinx's motif, and then all of the officers die except Caitlyn.
Yeah. And then Caitlyn also doesn't even like get severely injured. It's like she gets a boo-boo on her arm and knee. She's not like in a body cast, and the other ones are just dead.
Oh yeah, that's because they rushed into the middle of it, where she was on the she was trying to extinguish fires from the outside in. So
yeah,
she
but
was on the
I thought
far
that she was still
perimeter.
pretty close, personally. But I get it.
And then Jinx steals the gemstone and the research paper in the confusion.
Mm-hmm.
And then we cut to the council. And you messaged me about this. And we both had a good laugh. But one of the counselors, the one that Mel bought the like children's puzzle for, he's still trying to solve that after the time skip.
Like 5 or 6 years later. He's just like, I'm gonna get it one of these days. You know, because he still thinks it's like, you know, the puzzle of like a master generation or whatever, where he's just like, I'm gonna solve it. Oh, it tickles me every single time.
So the council starts talking about the theft, and they come to the realization that they can't control the Undercity, and that the Undercity is actually really crafty, and so they are going to make a weapon out of this. Jace comes up and he suggests that they should stop all Hextech operation, including the gates. And the council hates this idea because they have become so reliant on the gates as a trade routes. And instead, Mel comes forth and proposes that he is added to the council as a new seat.
Yeah, I was not expecting that.
Yeah, it's cool. I really like Jace's story where he's kind of forced in this political position as not a politician.
Mm-hmm. And then he's also forced later on to make like political moves.
Like, oh yeah, you
gotta play the game.
He has to stay the role. He's in the political game now, and Victor's not happy about that, but he didn't really have a choice. Like none of them really had a choice in the matter. It kind of just fell into Jace's lap.
Yeah. I mean, he could have rejected it, I guess, but then he'd probably be excommunicated from the city or something. So they're like, you're already on like thin waters, Jace.
Well, he's not on thin waters anymore. He's the face of the city now, pretty much. He's the man of progress. So many years have passed that, like, worst come to worst, he loses funding.
Yeah, that's what I meant. It's like, bad things would happen if he didn't join the, like, there's implied, like, he'd probably, I don't know. It felt like he had no choice. Like, even if he said no, it's like, something bad would happen to where he would have to. So he's like, yeah, lets me help protect people, so I'll go with it.
This is then when we cut to Jinx listening to her own theme, which was really funny the first time because it's one of those you point out and you go because you get a reference.
I found a few of those
as a League of Legends player, and I really like that she's just vibing and Silco has to come in and just like. And we do these like little jump cuts as Silco gets closer and closer, just screaming her name.
Yeah,
I really liked the editing in that, and great directing.
It's so good.
He's pissed because of the shit she blew up and the people she killed.
I just have written in my notes for the first part of this scene is just Jinx literally is Joker 2019. I just couldn't think of how to describe it. But yeah. I like even when like she realizes he's there and pissed, she's just like, "Yep, that's me. I'm Jinx. What do you want to do?" It's great.
I think she's riding the high of the thing she just looted.
Yeah, and just is not even phased. I think it's also because she knows that Silco won't punish her because she did a thing. That's good.
Yeah, true.
She's just like, do whatever you want. Fucking look at this.
Hey, look at this thing. Enforcer's dead? Who cares if we killed a few caps? Look, I got blue. I got the blue. You want the blue?
I really do like also that she made fireworks.
Yes, those special effects were really good.
She's like, happy progress day, and then she gives him a little hug, and he's like, all right.
And no, he's just like, what is this? What did you bring me? The whole time she's like hugging him and talking, he's just staring at the orb. I'm not gonna say it.
No. Why would you even
I pondered whether I should say it or not. Alright, anyways.
Whether or not you should say that?
Alright, what do we cut to next?
Well, there's the end of the episode, basically. Yeah.
What'd you say?
Oh, sorry, I was just saying it was the end of the episode. There's like one more scene.
Yeah, Caitlyn is looking over the evidence. She's Pepe Sylviaing up. Jace comes to visit. He gives her some flowers, hope she's recovering. But he's mostly there to offer her an office position where she would be much safer. And she declines. This is the scene you were talking about earlier, where she's offered a safe position, declines.
Yeah.
And then she traces the web to Stillwater Prison, and then we cut to the scene of her riding a boat up there, and she talks to the warden because she wants to interview the prisoner that she saw at the cargo ship, the one she found hiding. But Vi had beaten him up, so he couldn't talk anymore, so she goes to visit Vi instead to find out why she beat him up. And then... end of episode.
Yeah.
We see Vi. We see where Vi has been this whole time.
There's a really good build-up to Vi, because, like, we thought, it might be Vi on the ship, if you're dumb like me. You don't really know the characters that well, and you haven't seen them time skip. But if you're not me, then you're like, okay, cool, where's Vi? And it's like, I couldn't even really figure out, was Vi in prison for the first little bit. It makes sense, but it was like, you see from, like, off-screen, him getting beaten up by a lunch tray, and then the main guard is like, yeah, he's not gonna be able to speak. You can talk to him when his jaw's fixed, though. And just going down to the deep cell. And it's intercut as she's going down the elevator. It's like, who the fuck did that? And then they, do a pan into the jail cell, and she's sitting on, like, in the back. And it's like, oh, it's Vi. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. That was really it. It was just a really good, like, end of episode directing thing. And only other thing I wanted to mention...
who the hell are you? And her lips are, like, overly animated, and it makes me feel weird. I don't know why, but...
You want to kiss him?
No.
Oh, okay. That's just a me thing, then.
Maybe.
I don't know if she'd be into her or not, so that would depend on my answer. But we skipped over a little bit. There's a cool detail, I think, with Caitlyn, is he brings in flowers, but there's like 1 billion in there, because she's nobility and everything. Everyone either pretend loves her or actually loves her. It was nice just to see, like,
Yeah, I think it's a nobility thing where it's like, oh, condolences.
Yeah. And he threw the, like, flowers to the side. He's like, oh, okay, you're fine, and you got 1 billion flowers, whatever. He just, like, gets rid of them. Yeah. Like, I don't think he even gives her to him. He just throws them, like, with the other flowers. And it just gets right to brass tacks.
Yeah. Episode 4 wasn't the crowning achievement of this part, but it was still really good.
It was my second favorite of the 3, I would say. And I thought it was, like, it got me excited because I was like, Act 2 feels like a step up from Act 1 in terms of, like, production, honestly.
Yeah. So, episode 5.
Yeah. I think this one was probably, in my opinion, best of the 6 I've seen so far. Straight up. Love this episode.
It was a good one.
11 out of 10.
You might want to hold those judgments until you've seen all of it.
Yeah, I'm just saying out of the 6, just to quantify that. Because obviously I haven't seen the other ones, but really good episode, I think.
All right, okay.
Like, there was so much density on the screen of everything. This is a 45-minute show, including, opening and ending that I skipped. I probably took me an hour and a half to watch this. Because I would see a scene, I'd have to watch it 3 times, pause it, and be like, fuck, dude. It's so, like, impressive, everything about this episode.
I had to rewatch the Imagine Dragons, like, 8 times,
Was that this episode?
That was this episode, yes.
Okay, 1 out of 10. Sorry. Least favorite episode now.
Sorry, 1 out of 10. Had Imagine Dragons in it.
Imagine Dragons became
For the record,
real.
I kind of like Imagine Dragons. Not the biggest fan, but I think they're alright.
I do not like their music at all. Like, I thought it was alright, like, in 2013 or whatever, where I was like, yeah, this is alright. And I just feel like they make the same song. This is not relevant to the show. I'm done. We're getting off topic.
Alright, so episode 5 starts with it's a flashback to Caitlyn is competing against the old sheriff who died. When did she die?
Episode 3, when they were like, hey, it's Silco.
Oh, yeah.
Marcus betrayed you.
Silco.
Bah!
Hey, what is that purple blur coming towards us?
It's Sonic, but slightly different.
No, it's Sonic the Werehog.
Is Sonic Werehog purple?
Purplish. Purple enough.
Enough.
Anyways, she's practicing with the old sheriff. Actually, they're having a competition. It's not really a practice. And
her name is Grayson, by the way. Found out.
Grayson, that's what
this
it was.
episode. Subtitles, thank you.
Caitlin actually wins, but then she turns and she sees that Grayson held the shot on the last target. And so she's worried that Grayson was paid off by her parents to let her win, which Grayson admits, no, I just thought you deserved to win. Don't remember any of the conversation other than that.
Oh, I actually have more on that. Because it was very cool. I think it also builds into her character, like we've been talking about and we disagree on. This is kind of like the substitute for the backstory of like, oh, you're doing rifle training. I shoot for like the protection of my family and like friends in the city. And that's like honor and trophy enough for me. What do you shoot for, Caitlin? And then it cuts to present day. We don't get an answer. But we get shown an answer later in the episode. It's very cool.
Sorry, I just had to make fun of you. I disagree with you.
I think I used the words that my art boner got hard, and then I got flaccid when we got to Imagine Dragons.
You did text me a Discord message that said Imagine Dragons is on the screen. My art boner is flaccid. So that was pretty funny to see.
Because I was so, like, it was getting near the end of the episode, I was getting so pumped, and I was like, oh, no, fuck.
I have a lot to rant about that scene, by the way. There's, like, collection of scenes.
Awesome. I love Imagine Dragons
slander.
Get there. Good.
So we cut to the present day.
Clean transition, by the way.
We get this really heavy-handed metaphor where there is just a painted line on the floor, and in order, like, she's been talking to Vi a little bit, and she's like, I could show her this evidence, but then there's you're like, oh no, she has to cross the line. Oh,
I didn't even see the line on the floor.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is her crossing the line, guys. Do you get it? I mean, I still enjoy it, but. Yeah, Caitlin's bad now. You're right. I win. Thank you. Guys, hold your applause.
Other than that scene, I really did like the dynamic of like their conversation where it's like
it was
them as individuals, but also them as like criminal versus law in terms of dynamic, where you can really see how the systems are playing with each other.
Well, and they're also at odds, Vi and Caitlin. We see this is the start of their relationship, so of course this is going to be one of the roughest parts. Where they see, oh, you're just a cop, which is basically a criminal in a uniform. And she says, oh, you're just a criminal. Y'all are all the same. But they both have things they need, so they work with each other.
Mm-hmm. But it's also, I don't have specifics, but the way they talked also reminded me of them kind of like speaking as positions of their systems. Not just as like, I have beef with you, but just like, you know, how she acted like within the law. It's like, you know, why can't I trust you, you know, you're here because you're bad, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then Vi was just kind of like casual, you know, whatever. It's like, I don't deserve to be here.
Well, Vi can't really get it any worse where she currently is, can she?
Yeah. So it's just like, I don't have any reason to, you know, help you. Also,
yeah, what do you I don't even need to be. They already do that.
I shouldn't even be here, you know, fuck the system, all that. And it like
does she ever say that she doesn't deserve to be there? I don't think she ever proclaims her innocence.
I thought, not that she was innocent, but just like, there's no record of me on here. That's what she said. It's like, I'm not even like on the record for my crimes. That was what Caitlin said to her. And I think that's where I got that implication from.
No.
Was Caitlin was just like, because they don't have any criminal record, because Marcus was just like, you're in jail.
Oh, it was
this is where you live now.
It was to keep her safe, because if Silco knew she was alive, Silco would kill her.
So she grew up in prison, yeah.
Yes. I guess Marcus said prison life is better than no life.
and I think in some cases you could argue, no. Sometimes no life would be better than prison life. In this prison where you get beaten up.
That's a little too philosophical for my domain. Not really. I'd love to have that discussion, but we're talking about League of Legends.
Of course.
The ultimate prison.
All League of Legends players deserve to be beaten up in prison, where they belong. Is there a prison
So
system in League of Legends? What's
no.
that guy that takes him to the void? Mordekaiser? That's where you go. That's League of Legends prison.
I'm surprised you knew that.
Hey, osmosis, baby.
So then Caitlyn uses Jace's position as a counselor to get Vi released, which I think we later learn next episode that Jace did not okay this. She just made up a lie and used Jace's signature to get
He
Vi out of
didn't.
prison. Yeah.
I thought he was just covering it up from Marcus, where he was like, "Oh, you're not supposed to know about that."
No, he didn't know himself.
He didn't know.
This is Caitlyn going off the record to do things she probably shouldn't be doing.
Did
Which
they
is
have
the cross the line metaphor.
Did they have a scene in Act 1 where she could forge Jace's signature? Because I feel like I remember something vaguely like that.
Oh, well,
but
we see the very first scene of episode 2. She's carrying Jace's stuff to his office when the building explodes.
That's what it is, yeah. Something like that. I thought she like did something where it's like, oh, it makes sense.
Well, they're
like,
close, and
Yeah.
she probably had paperwork from his offer of the position, so she could have just forged it.
Yeah.
Or Jace is funded by the Kiramans. She is a Kiraman. Maybe it's as simple as that. And she's just like,
Gotcha.
No one will question if I say this. Anyways,
Yeah.
we cut to
I don't have much to
Marcus
say on that.
giving a eulogy of all the officers who died in Jinx's explosion, which right after that, we cut to him yelling at Silco because he couldn't keep Jinx under control, where they had an agreement where they wouldn't kill cops and they would try and keep it down to just like a little smuggling.
Mm-hmm.
And then Silco suggests that they blame the firelights instead, and he pays Marcus off. And that's kind of the end of the scene, where we just see Marcus is corrupt still, and Silco has his hold over him. And we get a lot of scenes of whenever Marcus is ever considering an option, there's always something with his family in the scene. Like during the funeral, he was looking at his daughter. Later, whenever he's considering like to give up this grenade that Silco gives him later and to blame the firelights for, he always has like a picture of like one that his daughter drew.
Yeah, the drawing like in a picture frame on his desk.
Yeah, he always has some like he's a very big family guy.
Yeah. It seems today that all
Hey,
you
Silco.
see. I remember that time I betrayed you.
Then we cut to Jace looking over shipping logs because he's the counselor now. I think they say it's his second day where he's just looking over shipping logs to see any discrepancies. And Victor is just the meanwhile. He's like, this is a waste of your time. This is a waste of your talents. Help me invent things. And Jace feels he's starting to understand the responsibility that the technology they created has to be looked over, while Victor is more focused on improving lives with new technology.
Yeah.
And then Marcus comes in, and Jace is just like, hey, what the fuck is going on? Have you read these? Have your people read this shit? Shit's wrong.
Yeah, I also like Marcus comes in, and he's like, sir, it's your first day.
Second day. Get it right.
Second day. Why? He's like, do it. I can do it. So do it. Fix it.
Fix it. Anyways, then Victor coughs up some blood and starts hallucinating while looking at all the hex tech. Some weird kind of vision thing that he has. And then from there, we cut to Jinx reading through Jason Victor's journal, trying to decode it. And while she's messing with the technology, trying to crack it, she creates like almost an explosion-like thing, and she starts to have flashbacks of the explosion that killed Milo Clagger and crew.
Just Vander. He's the only other one.
Yeah, Vander. Didn't immediately kill Vander. Those were the only people immediately killed, besides like some goons or thugs, what have ye.
And it's funny because that actually ended up being her family. So she killed 2 of her families, didn't she?
Yeah, a little bit.
I really do. If you don't have anything else to say on that, I want to talk about it a little bit more. I do. When she was doing like the hex tech stuff, she's kind of like blah 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 whatever. It's cool that she's really intelligent, but is not like a book scientist or like a very like sciencey attitude person. She's just kind of good at engineering shit, and she's just like kind of does it, like wings it. And
I feel like at some point she should know these technical terms, and it feels like she doesn't.
Well, it's just that she doesn't outwardly know them. It's not that she's outwardly presenting sciencey. She knows them, like she knows how it works, which is cool. This is just kind of like, I get science. You just kind of feel it. And so it's like an interesting sciencey character without being like a nerd glasses. Like, well, if you calculate the probability of this explosion, he's just like a normal person, right? Or not normal. That's the wrong word to use for Jinx. It's absolutely the worst word to use. Person
in the cast.
She's just like more of a what is the word I'm looking for? But she's like a street smarts person, but she's also intelligent. She just uses street smarts attitude to do science. But also the explosion from her like invention, like it brings her back into like semi-lucidity, it feels like, where she's like, oh, I fucked up, I'm sorry, I regret this, I'm sorry. And she like starts talking like she did before, and like, you know, crying and curling up in a ball. And it's like her trauma almost brings her back to like herself, and she's like suppressing it and like becoming, you know, she's suppressing it through whatever like her madness presents as. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I really understood her character a lot more, and I was like, I get it. She's like, she's not just wacky, because a lot of the characters are just
that's
like,
what the game presents her as, is just wacky.
Yeah, and that's from what I've seen, what I've heard. I was like, oh, she's just wacky, but it's like she's tormented, straight up, and I just thought it was cool, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame that since the game is the end product of where the character ends, it kind of, I get the feeling that we're gonna have to shed off every layer of lucidity until she just becomes wacky.
We see that a little bit later, even in episode 6 too. Yeah.
Yeah, the process becomes fun, but
yeah,
fun is probably the wrong word. It's
fascinating,
an entertaining and fascinating arc.
Yeah, this scene. Because the next scene we go into too, it's just like scene after scene of just stuff that I love how it's directed. If you want to go into that.
Time after this. Well, not immediately. Pretty immediately, honestly. Caitlin and Vi are going to the Undercity to investigate Silco.
Yeah, I was talking about this scene specifically. Yeah.
I don't have a whole lot. Actually, I only have Vi parkours as Caitlin slowly climbs down.
Oh, well, I might go on a 10-minute rant
wild,
here.
Man. This is all you.
So there's a really cool thing at the beginning of this scene. You see this old man. Keep that in mind. He's like this old man with a cane, like getting on the tram. And so Caitlin is talking to Vi, and she's like, hey, you know, like, if we wanted to explore the Undercity, like, the tram is a really good place to get a view. And then Vi is like, nah, too risky. She jumps down. And then you look back at Caitlin, and she has the tickets in her hand already. So she had already planned. It was like a formality thing of being like, we should take the tram. She's like, fuck. She throws the tickets away. I love that, because I was like, oh, she like was planning on it, because it's like that's the only way she sees is like by the books going through like the tram like that, right? It just makes sense to her. Whereas Vi is just like, we have free roofs to look at things. So she starts like parkouring down, and the music is great as she's like doing all these flips and like jumping off of things. Interspliced between are like Caitlin just falling down shit.
Yeah.
She's just sucking, which I did not expect.
Super careful and not really taking many risks, and like she gets scared if something kind of starts not working super well.
Yeah, much like as a personality that she is like not a risk taker. She does things by the book mostly. She's learning from Vi a little bit how to not do that. What?
I said mostly.
Yeah, mostly by the books, because she's expanding a little bit. She seems just like a really royal by the books person. So when she's going down, she's just like really trying to not hurt herself, but she just does not get anywhere. She's like using the ladders and stuff. It's all interspliced while like Vi is running to like this crazy music, doing really insane shit on the roofs.
Sheep parkour.
It's like really directed and interspliced together in a really smart way. And then after all of that, the last scene of Caitlyn falling off the roof, she's passed by the old man with a cane that got on the tram.
Yeah,
so it would have been the same amount of time to just go on the tram for her.
And we also got a really cool, is this where we get the shot of Vi looking over the Undercity? And it's really cool.
Yeah, it's right before we get to Caitlyn falling down. But just, like, it's a 30-second joke that, like, is so genius with, like, its pacing and, like, you really feel the characters instantly. And there's, like, a couple things, just, like, the ticket thing, the old man thing, the park, it just all works so well. And I was so blown away by that. I had to watch it a couple times where I was just like, there's probably more things I missed with that, honestly. But it's just like the micro details that they get in the directing just are beautiful.
That's what happens when you get 6 years to look it all over.
6 years of polish, baby.
Yep. I'm hoping that next season doesn't become too unpolished because they don't have the same amount of time. But they get to reuse resources because it's the same area. So hopefully that energy and time can be spent on polishing those details.
Yeah, is League 3D animated and then made to look 2D? Or is it just 2D?
What, the game?
The show. Arcane.
The show, it's a 3D engine.
Because that would save a lot on resources. Because I imagined it was like 2D looking in post-processing, but it was 3D in the show.
It's the shaders and stuff and textures that they use.
So yeah, that'll save like on environment and everything. It should be
because they pretty much mapped out the entirety of the Undercity and like a shit ton of built over.
Yeah,
not the entirety of Undercity, but they have like alleys that we'll see again. Like we saw the one when they're running with the gemstones in episode 1 when they're like running from Deckard. Like all of that wasn't reused. Maybe they'll find a way to reuse that shit.
Yeah, even if they make new stuff, like it wouldn't take that long. I feel like
they have building presets and stuff.
Yeah, you could like build different walls and like recolor them a little bit, make a couple bricks different, something like that, and you can make it look like similar but different. Like they have a really good base. Yeah, it's nice.
You could say it's based. I'll have to send you some of the music videos they worked on. I don't want to commit, but I think they did one of the KDA songs. Anyways.
I'm impressed, by the way, that it is 3D because, I've done a lot of like research into like the Ruby stuff. Not going to talk about it, but people see parallels between it and this. I'm just impressed. This show has a larger budget probably, but just the art direction, how far it goes to sell a show that is in 3D. You can just make it work. Versus like Ruby just kind of looks really. It looks.
Well, Ruby is also it's also mocapped, and I think Arcane isn't mocapped. It's just from a guy who used motion capture so much that he just knew how the human like body moved when talking, when doing all that stuff. Don't quote me on that though. I don't want any angry emails.
That's how they contact you.
If I'm wrong, yeah, they'll
fax you.
They'll send me an AOL IM. They'll poke me on Facebook or something.
They somehow attach a message to the poke on Facebook that says, "Hey Nick, fuck you. You're wrong about Arcane."
Fuck you, it was mocapped. They don't say Arcane, they just say fuck you, it was mocapped.
Even Ruby isn't really mocapped a ton anymore, I don't think. Like they do some
mostly
stuff.
Just fights.
It's a lot of standing around. If the mocap is still mocapped, it's like smoother now. It's not like season 1 where it's just like really bad and not articulated well. It feels like they use mocap as a base and like polish it now, whereas they just didn't really do that as much before, or they have a better handle on it or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Well, we're not really here to talk about Ruby.
I don't like it, but I was just gonna say, comparatively way better Arcane. I'm so impressed by it. I just was kind of written off of 3D shows because of Ruby, and this kind of reinvigorated like it's possible. You can make it look good.
Yeah. So then we cut to Victor messing around with the Hextech runes, and we find the Hextech polygon. I think he calls it the Hextech core by episode like 6.
Yeah.
So he's messing with these Hextech runes after he's had this vision he talks about. And we get a bit more scientific information on how magic and Hextech work. I didn't really write it down because it's not really important. And that's pretty much the whole scene, is to give a more scientific view of Hextech and magic in general.
I like how we, for Victor, we get like a whole mad scientist kind of thing where we can see he's starting to really delve deep into the work and be like, the runes, like, channel magic, but like, and with the visions, he's like, what if we do it backwards? Like, can we manipulate it? Is there a way we can harness this differently? And Jay starts getting concerned, like right before he leaves. He's just like, are you sure this is safe? He goes, of course not. Just ends.
Well, Jace was the one who had the exploding rocks, to be fair.
Yeah. Victor
so who's
is just,
he to talk?
He doesn't care. He's just like, yeah, of course not, it's safe. Like, of course it's not safe. And
we learned why he's in such a rush to create new technology later this episode.
Yeah. It was really cool. Where it was funny, but it also just really showed how he's delving deeper into science, like, at all costs. More so than Jace is, even.
Yeah.
He's doing, like, the dark side. Like, Jace is doing political shit, but, like, Victor's doing, like, the dark science thing of, like, we're pushing limits a little here.
Well, I would say Jace is still on his side. He just wanted to clarify whether it was safe or not, because Jace is still on his side when they talk about organic Hextech. Jace just says, this is wonderful. Well, then again, Jace does have a new motive at that point, when Victor's dying.
It's not evil tech. I just mean it's like we're getting into, like, we're pushing past boundaries that, like...
It's transhumanism.
Yeah, like, the things that people are like, you shouldn't fuck with God, that's the kind of stuff that we're starting to get into with Hextech, where it's like, you're crossing into God's domain, is what they're kind of thinking, I think, and, it's similar to that, is what I mean, because we get into, like, organic stuff, but that's what I meant, is he's getting into, like, the mad scientist of, like, playing God a little bit, as we go on. It's really cool. I like that about him. Really sold me on Victor.
Yeah, no, I fucking love Victor. Victor may be my favorite character.
He might be mine too. Like, one of my favorites from this act.
Act 3 is his greatest act. Act 3 is like everyone's greatest act. But
I'm so happy. Because
I'm gonna say it now.
Shit, Act 1.
I'm gonna say it now. The quality of an act has a positive correlation to the amount of screen time Victor gets. Hey, look, I just calls it as I sees it.
And that's a scientific fact.
So anyways, we cut to Vi eating. I just have Vi eats.
That written down.
The liquid is vile.
It's just like anchovy, like, shit liquid. And she's like, it's just, I mean, it's supposed to be gross. I wrote down, it's gross but good.
It's too gross. I would say you can make gross, but you don't want to go to 100%.
I wasn't vomit grossed. I was just uncomfortable gross, close. So it worked for me.
It was pretty close. I was just like, that is vile. Vi stands for vile.
Yeah. A vial of shimmer.
I also wrote down, I love Jericho, though. Funny big fish man.
Is that his name? Is Jericho?
Yeah, she says thanks, Jericho, at one point.
Does anyone knock on his walls?
I don't understand.
Just a biblical, like, not like blaring on the walls of Jericho. I don't know. It was dumb.
It was too clever for me.
I did like this scene though, where it's just like Caitlyn is, by the books and does not get what Vi was doing.
Eating. Vi was eating. I didn't like it.
Vi, it turns out, she was eating and, like, just stopping by, and he gave her information, just non-verbally, and Caitlyn's like, there's
a purpose going here.
There is a purpose going here, versus, like, she sees her as, like, a criminal that, like, is just doing, like, I just want to eat, which is what she justifies it as, but it's like, yeah, you can't talk about that in the open, about, like, information trading, because someone can hear. So It's just like, you know, street smart stuff. It was cool. I liked it. Because that symbol comes back from the napkin on the door that we go to after that.
Yeah. We cut to Jace and Mel are talking at a concert performance. And the whole point of the scene is kind of Mel is trying to convince Jace that he needs to embrace, not this blatantly, of course, but basically what she wants to do is convince Jace to embrace the corruption that he's trying to root out. But she words it so that the counselors will work with him instead of targeting him.
Yeah.
And
it's
so
like
the whole
you're making them lose money.
We cut to the scene a lot, but this one right now, she kind of is just like establishing, like, hey, people have relationships in the council, like trading relationships, bureaucratic relationships. And then as we cut to the scene more and more, I'll keep talking about it.
Yeah, this one's like a quick 30-second cut, right? Where it's just like, hey, your house is in danger. And that's just it.
Yeah, and it's also showing all the political play that's happening where it's like, oh, this isn't just us chilling at a concert. This is a diplomatic venture.
Yeah. Like, hey, this scene is important, kids, so next time we come back to it, look for the subtle hints. That's what it feels like a little bit.
We see Jinx visiting the old hangout where Vi, Clouder, Powder, and Milo.
Clouder and Powder.
Mouder and Powder and Clouder
and Vouder. Do you mind if I go through this scene? Because I have like a lot to say about it.
Yeah, I don't have anything written down for this, really.
You don't? Really?
Not a ton.
This
just at the very
is
end.
My favorite scene in the whole favorite scene in the whole show. There is so much going on in this one.
We actually got this scene early. Like this was the teaser. This was the very first teaser scene we got of the show.
Really? Well, that makes sense. It's like a really good one. But because we're back at the arcade from Act 1. It's really cool. She's just getting like tinglings of like, oh yeah, like my dead friends used to be here. And then we look at the high score. We see that it's mostly Vi, but that Clagger, he got 2 dubs at the bottom.
Bottom 2 dubs.
Clagger.
No Milo, I noticed.
No Milo. Milo sucks.
Milo's a bitch.
Milo is on the punching target face thing, I think, right?
Yeah, that's where he belongs.
He's carved into it. So, there was this cool scene where like a crow scares Jinx and she like points a gun at it. They do like this little head cock thing, and then she shoots
like imitating it.
Yeah, and then she shoots it anyways. Where it's like, you know, if it had just been she had gotten scared by it and shot it, that doesn't really mean much. But she very deliberately was just like, oh, pew. It's a crow. Fuck you, boom. And it was just, I don't know entirely what it says about her character other than her being a little insane, but it was like a very like deliberate, like, this thing has no value to me. It needs to die. Where it was just like heartless, and you could tell she's kind of detached a little bit. I really like that scene a lot.
Yeah.
But then also, as Jinx repairs the arcade, like, as it boots up, it's like her trauma boots up at the same time, where she's like,
well, it's the sounds shit. Also. I can imagine that's a really good motif where it's like the sounds are reminding her. She's heard that how many times as a kid.
The boo, and then like the goop comes out. The Mountain Dew starts powering the machines again.
Yeah.
And she's just like, she gets into it, and, you know, it comes back, but it fuels her with like that fight or flight energy. She starts playing the game and kicking ass. And so there's like these really, really cool overlays of like, you know, Vi and Jinx, you know, showing, you know, their sisters, they're fighting similar. They both learn from Vander a little bit. Jinx has kind of developed her own thing, though. And then there's this shot of like...
What more kicks?
Yeah, she's doing kicks, which is... Vi is a no kicks lady, no leg day for her.
Very punchy.
But also Vi is like more composed. She's more of like a methodical fighter. Whereas Jinx just goes fucking monkey mode on the machine.
It's just feral when she fights.
Feral. Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. And there's this like cross shot of like Vi with her guard up, like a split screen thing, and then Jinx where she's just like going ape shit. But then after all of that, she's like gotten better. She's a full grown adult, whereas Vi, like on these machines, was probably like 12 or something.
Yeah.
She gets second highest score. Last little salt like rubbed in the face.
She almost lives up to where her sister was.
She's still in her sister's shadow, even from when she was 12. And so she's still like a disappointment. She's fucking
very
frustrated.
fitting metaphor. I really liked it. I wrote that one down too.
I love that so much. And then she shoots the arcade machine, and that was it. But it was like
Do
a
you
cool.
think that put her over the score?
Does shooting Milo again give you points, or is that more of like a unfair what do they call it, like betrayal in Halo?
Well,
it's just like,
well, at the end of the day, we shot Milo one more time, so I think that's a win in all of our books.
Do you not like Milo all that much?
No, I love Milo.
I fucking love Milo, dude. He's great.
I love to give him shit though.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because it's it's what he does. Little shitter deserves it.
Mm-hmm. There's stuff like there's details on the ground and stuff too, but I don't really go into that because I didn't write much about it. But the environment's also really good here too. That's why I love this scene so much.
Yeah. So anyways, we come back to Jason Mel as she finally manages to convince him to negotiate deals so that people will support him. And we actually see that he's actually kind of good at it. As he talks to one of the first counselors, tries to become Hextech partners with them. She's a surprisingly charismatic guy. Well, I didn't expect the little nerdy Jace to be this charismatic. I don't think Victor could do this, and I think that's why Chase was chosen.
Victor can't do shit like this, both because of his upbringing and also because of the person he is.
Yeah,
there's
it's also interesting how Victor has Victor is an individual, whereas Jace constantly, he is Jace Talus. He has a legacy of the Talus constantly family. Bringing up his parents or his father, how he made hammers, and how he has to earn his own legacy, whereas Victor is kind of making something for people. Well, they're both making something for people, but
yeah, Victor doesn't have the pressure of a legacy, but also not the benefits of a legacy.
Yeah, he has the pressure of fucking dying, though.
He has the pressure of all of his weight on one leg.
He has aortal pressure.
Man. Oh, there was also a scene that we kind of skipped past. It was like 10 seconds, but we do see that, because Caitlyn is kind of heartless about it, but Vander's bar is being taken over by Silcogoons. She's torn apart by it because Vi sees that.
Oh, yeah, and she says something like there are bodies. I'm sure there are bodies hidden under here. And she's like, yeah, you don't fucking know, do you?
Yeah. Short scene. It was all right. I just wanted to mention it because I didn't realize it was his bar until later. There's another scene that says it outright, but I was like, oh, that is his bar. That's fucking sad.
Yeah. So Mel is basically pushing Jace to become a symbol of the future. And a lot of Mel talking about Jace, it's always about the future. That's kind of Jace's motif, is he is the prospective future.
Whereas Heimerdinger's past. They really hammer that home.
They really hammer that one in.
Much like a Talus family man would.
Hey, now you're getting it. So we're done with them. Caitlyn and Vi go to a brothel.
Oh, I had stuff to say about that, actually.
Oh, what?
I'm sorry. I know
and you didn't interrupt me?
What?
And you didn't intercede?
I just figured you'd have more to say about it, because I also like this. Not really. I mean, it's just that, capitalism and government are getting intertwined, because it's, the Hextech, business versus him being in political power. It's that corruption, but the stage performance, the diegetic music of the violin and the storm, it's the oncoming storm, it's is symbolic. The violin's going crazy. Another really good directing scene.
Some violins. Aha.
So yeah, there's all this stuff going with the violin, going in, clouds getting grayer because it's this 3D pop-up stage kind of a performance. So it's him playing in a storm. And so, coming storm, it's all really visually cohesive. And it's weirdly one of the weakest scenes of this episode, but yet it's still a banger scene because it's just scene after scene they have stuff like this. And my favorite part, because I didn't realize this tied back in until the next episode, but Heimerdinger is just vibing out to the
oblivious.
storm.
He is oblivious to everything happening behind him.
And it's
all literally happening behind his back.
literally behind his back, and he's oblivious, but also he gets voted off the council later. And so they
because
come and backstab him.
He, first and foremost, wasn't a scientist, or was a scientist. He wasn't a politician, where Jace is learning he has to adapt. And this whole scene is him setting up his tools. Like, the council is becoming a tool to him, much like Jace has become a tool for Mel.
Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking about the sex scene. I thought that's what you were saying. But no, I know you mean literally.
Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, Heimerdinger. I just like how he's unaware, and you really get like that feeling of the backstab, like completely behind his back. He got voted off the council. Like it's a cool payoff.
Good
to
symbolism.
that. Good symbolism. Really cool. It's just like episode 5 hits it home with every single one of those scenes. It's just mind blowing that it's like this is all one 45-minute episode to me. Like it has some of like my favorite scenes directed in almost anything. Like all in one episode. So yeah, that's why I'm kind of nerding out over it. That was it for that.
Next? Oh yeah, brothel time.
Yeah. I just wrote down raunchy sex dungeon. I didn't realize that brothel is a word that I could use for that.
They're practically the same thing. Vi convinces Caitlin to act like a prostitute in order to get conversation. She kind of convinces her that, you can't always just ask nicely. You kind of have to give something to get something. In this case, sex.
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 Yeah. I like how Caitlin goes back for a second look, though, because it's all new to her. She, like, peeks her head back.
Oh, yeah, she's morbidly curious.
Because there's, like, we don't know what's happening because it's just bubbles on our screen. But it's like,
oh, yeah. Well, that's just to showcase it. Something weird is probably
some weird shit.
I bet it's more than just a bubble bath. Yeah, that's what I think.
That bubble ass. Am I right?
Yeah, that was a near rhyme.
I just like how she's clever. I just like how she's so curious.
Yeah. And we cut to Marcus meeting with Silco, and Marcus lets Silco know that, hey, Jace is cracking down. And this is when Silco gives him a grenade, and he's just like, just say it was the firelights. And then we get this cool scene where he actually pulls the pin and blows them both up. But then we rewind as we hear Silco saying, just like, come on, play the hero. And he's like goading him into doing it. But obviously,
well, what are you waiting for?
Because he has a family to care for. And so
that was really cool how it just cut back, because I thought, I was like, whoa, he fucking did it, I love him, and then it just stripped it away from me, like, oh, he's a coward.
This is when Echo came in and reversed time.
That was his only appearance in this entire act. It was just to reverse time and fuck with the audience.
Look, this was a really busy act. We just didn't have time for Echo. Kind of ironic, I know, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Echo's got plenty of time, right?
Going back after this scene, though, why the fuck did the grandma goblin lady slut come back in? She was a background character in episode 1. Yeah, I didn't know she was gonna be a main character. I thought she was like a throwaway,
she's not
like
a
funny
main character. She's like a tertiary character.
Just a funny character. I mean, I figured in episode 1 we had the establishing shots to Imagine Dragons doing whatever they do, where it's like, oh yeah, there's like, I said it in the first episode, where it's just a grandma goblin, whatever, and she's just like, on the street, like waiting for someone to pick her up. I was like, oh, that's funny.
Well,
she actually plays a point in the plot.
It's not that she's an old human who's like wrinkled and decrepit. She's a yordle. So she might not be as old as we expect.
Or do yordles live a long time?
Well, Heimerdinger's a yordle, so yes.
So conversely, she could be millions of years old and very wrinkly.
That is a possibility.
That was it. I just didn't expect her to come back. That was really shocking for me.
Yeah. Jinx talks about how she's having troubles developing the Hex Tech because of her flashbacks, and that's kind of just the back and forth Jinx and Silco have. And then Vi talks with the Gremlin lady, saying that she's looking for powder, and she kind of doesn't say whether she's alive or dead, or because she mentions powder. She doesn't bring up Jinx at all. I honestly don't remember how this conversation goes. I just know that she doesn't say that powder is Jinx.
Yeah, I just remember she was like, hey, I have info on Silco's number 2, because he likes sexing it up here.
She gives her information about Savika.
Oh, yeah. I also like when we go back, we see her like really getting into it with a woman, Caitlin.
Yeah.
I love that. What a beautiful scene. Okay, I gotta, because people might not have seen this. There's not hardcore sex on the screen yet, but she is just getting really flirty. She got into it. I love that. She like found her confidence.
Yeah.
That was just cool.
Then we cut to Mel approaching Jace after he is done negotiating. And Jace talks about his whole vision of he wants to put magic in the hands of people like his father put hammers in the hands of people to make the tools to build the city.
Yeah, that was cool.
And Mel talks, we finally get to learn more about Mel's family and her upbringing a little bit. Well, Mel is actually a exile from her family. And she talks about how, nope, she doesn't reveal that yet. But, fun fact.
Thank you. Good catch.
That's next episode. Hey, fun fact, Mel is an exile from her family.
Oh, no!
But she just talks about how her family only ever takes and they never give, so she wants to change that. Which is oddly noble of her, and it kind of changed my perspective on her. They were kind of building her up to be like an I use people kind of person, because she's always talking objectively or like about Jace like he's an object.
Yeah, I figured she's gonna be like that.
His usefulness. And it kind of just stops doing that after this scene because they're in a relationship now. It kind of just did a whole 180 on what I thought they were trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
I like Mel as a character, and I'm glad with what we got, but they set up the expectation. They set it up so that I expected something much more different.
Yeah,
I like kind of wish she
honestly
struggled with that.
I figured it would happen in Act 3, but because you're mentioning it here, I'm guessing she's just not going to go back to it. That's what I liked, was that it was a subversion, and I thought it was going to be like a double subversion where she's like struggling with it, but I don't know.
Well, you're gonna let's just say there's one part about Mel in Act 3 that you're really gonna like.
Oh, good.
Not Mel specifically, but you'll see. We'll get there.
Also, before we get into the we get a little
say
intense the word. Sex. There's this one really cool shot with like the laser beam tower from League of Legends where he's like, I can't wait to like, I forget what he says.
Those are just the hex gates.
Yeah, the hex gate. Jace like clasps his hand right as the tower shoots something off. Just a small moment. That was cool. Where he's talking about, making something grander, and like as he clasps his hand together, you hear like the boom and the laser go off. Pew. Like his hand is covering up like the top of the tower. Just really good shot composition,
Yeah, then we get sex.
Love the show. Yeah, sex. This is the best part. Sex is real. League of Legends first.
Real. Well, we cut to Victor. Then he's working on runes, and then his assistant approaches. She's like,
we gotta clarify.
She's flirting.
What sex is happening? Jason Mel. They fucking.
Yes,
we gotta clarify that.
Okay. Victor is working on runes as his assistant approaches. It's obviously like nighttime. She's like, hey, do you want to walk home with me? She's obviously flirting with him. And he's just like pushing her off. He's got that grind set.
He is a man of science, and I respect the fuck out of him. He is my role model right there. He's doing something I can't.
Jace gets laid, Victor gets paid.
Exactly.
But we cut in between Jace and Victor as Victor is passing out, spilling blood on the Hextech cube core. That's what it's called, and it actually reacts to his blood. But I mean, Victor's kind of fucking passed out. Doesn't really notice this at the moment.
Yeah, and like it's a really cool shot of like going into like the Hextech and like the layers of them having sex and then going to bed and whatever. At first, for some reason, I thought they were having sex out on the balcony. I was like, my guy, you're in front of a city of thousands. Chill the fuck out. Go to bed, please. No. I didn't know. I thought he was like an exhibitionist or something. And then, I also did respect Jace for being a Chad, getting that bag. But,
They're both Chads.
Victor, I think, is the bigger Chad.
Oh, yeah.
Man of science. Look at him go. He has no time for sex, only time for work and science and saving people's lives. I love that man.
Yeah. Then we cut to A scene that I really like, but symbolically I have a problem with. Silco takes Jinx to where him and Vander fought, and he talks about his rebirth after Vander's betrayal, like as if he was baptized when he was dunked into the water. So then he ends up baptizing Jinx, saying that she is Jinx. And my problem with this scene is a baptism is a rebirth, pretty much. That's the point of a baptism. It's a rebirth into like a new belief or a new personality in this case. It's weird because this kind of seems to try to fully symbolize that Jinx is fully Jinx, but she still continues to doubt herself, and it kind of feels like this scene is in the wrong spot, in my opinion.
Yeah,
because she doesn't change characters from before and after the baptism.
She does somewhat, but I thought it was going to be more than it was, because
it's like a baptism. That's a ceremonial, like you are reborn, you are a new person. So that's why it feels way too grand.
Like in episode 6, she does change a lot more, but there's still like remnants of her, like from the past.
She is not fully Jinx because
it just feels like a major step up versus like a finality thing, which is what I thought it was. I agree with you.
Which is what it should have been. I wish it occurred later in the show.
If it had come in like episode 7, where it's like, all right, Jinx, you fucked up. Spoilers, she really fucks up and loses something. So if they were like, all right, I'm going to take you out to the baptism. We're going to fix you. Let go of powder.
That's not really how baptisms work.
Yeah, well,
that would be like saying
Silco
a baptism
holds
drowned. Power over someone. Whereas a baptism is purely symbolic.
Yeah, I mean, he's not literally taking her there.
A baptism is not a
unwillingly
punishment.
Fix her. That's not what I meant. I just meant he's like, we gotta try something new. Where he's like, at his lowest point or whatever, where he's just like, okay, I gotta actually pay attention to my daughter or something. Because like, it's also right after Jinx and Vi meet up again in episode 6. Spoilers for that or whatever, but it would be good because it's like, she feels betrayed by her sister. She can fully let go of the past, do the baptism thing, and then you're done. And it's good. That's where it should have come, is what I was saying.
Yeah.
Because I didn't mean it as like a literal, the water has power. I just meant like, that's when Silco should have tried that.
Yeah, well, it's not a thing that you try and pray it works. It's more of a culmination of you have fully accepted yourself as Jinx. Let us celebrate and like sanctify it. So it should have been, she should have become fully Jinx, and then the baptism was to show that she was. It's not let's try this now. It's like that is a symbolic kind of thing.
I think the water is different from a baptism in that case, because Silco literally did change in the water because he was drowned by Vander in those pools.
But I think that was supposed to be like a bastardization, whereas he was trying to do the correct ceremony.
Yeah, but it's like, I don't think it's a one-to-one to baptism in that way. I think he was meaning it as like, this is, because it's not literally accepting yourself and like you're already that. It felt like he was taking her out to the water to be like, you're still hanging on to your past. Use this as a final moment to get rid of it in the water and like meditate.
That's,
not like a literal.
That's a fair way to put it, yeah.
Because that's kind of what I took it as, was that. So I still agree with you that it should have changed places, but I wish it was like she was like last remnants of being, powder, with like seeing Vi later on in the act, and then act 3 they're like, all right, you messed up, you lost the gemstone, go get baptized, and we're gonna sit here and you're gonna meditate it all out, and then they leave and then she's fully Jinx or whatever.
In that case, I would have said meditate, become fully Jinx, baptize. But that's beyond the point.
Because I don't think it's entirely baptism, like as a one-to-one metaphor.
Baptism is like a graduation ceremony. You don't do it before you've taken all your classes, pretty much. At least you shouldn't. That's how it's seen.
What, like, denomination, not getting too super personal, but is that like a Catholicism thing? Which one is the one where you get like baptized as an adult?
I'm not sure.
Because I was baptized as a kid, so it wasn't really like thing that I consciously really chose.
It's complicated, and I think it's outside of the scope of what we want to discuss.
I just wanted to mention it as like that's probably why our views on it are different.
Yeah,
is
probably.
Like, I imagine there's something there, based on tradition.
Anyways, it's Imagine Dragons time.
Oh yeah, this is where my art boner went flaccid.
This is where I had my complaints. One, Imagine Dragons is real in the League of Legends universe now. And I guess that means they have more lore than Shaco at this point.
What they had to do is they had to balance it out. They made sex real as a positive for League of Legends players. They had to make Imagine Dragons real.
So
karmically, it had to balance.
My problem with this, and I think we should just for now kind of mention Imagine Dragons. Like, we cut to her head is dunked into the water, fade to black, and then like bam, Imagine Dragon, like the beat of the opening enemy, the song, kind of plays. I kind of want to explain everything that happens. And then I will say my complaints. So Vi's kind of just walking. It feels like we kind of just stepped into a music video. We're not watching Arcane right now. We're taking a commercial break to walk into a music video. As she's just like walking through the streets, it feels like the directing has changed into a music video directing style. But yeah, she's kind of just walking. And then we cut after a while of listening to the music, so basically just a little music video break after the baptism, to another heavy emotional scene of Victor's in the hospital. When he passed out, like, he's dying. The show's confirming that wasn't a little cough. He is dying. We see Jace is at his bedside, and it's nice that we get to see Jace's priority of staying with Mel versus visiting his dying friend. At least he is visiting his dying friend.
Yeah.
He'll probably have to explain that one.
That was like at the very end of that like music video break where he like jumps out and like it cuts to him being in the hospital after he's like leaving the bed.
Yeah, it's funny you say that it's the end of it because then we cut back to it.
End of the segment, I had to clarify.
Yeah, we cut back to it. And so basically my complaint here is this whole music section ends when Vi attacks Savika. But my complaint is that is such emotional whiplash.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. Where it's like, baptism, Imagine Dragons. Dying, Imagine Dragons. It's just so awful, I think. It was just a bad decision.
Yeah, okay, the one problem I had with it, other than it being Imagine Dragons, because Imagine Dragons I don't think set the mood very well. But
if it was a sad song, it may have been appropriate.
I think the Victor scene should have just not really... I say this because there's one part I like about it, but...
I like how the music trails off when it goes into Victor's scene.
I think where we kick back in is where you can tell Victor accepts. He's like, how much time do I have left? And then we kick back into the music for a little bit. My biggest problem is that we go back to the music for like 15 seconds and then we're done with the music again. Yeah. It's just back for like 10 seconds. You didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
You could have just had no music.
Than additive.
Could have had no music there. Because we get like a second dramatic cutoff when she punches Vi punches the grunt. The one thing I do like about this transition, I don't know if you noticed it, the cards that she plays down are Death and the Magician. I love that because it's like, oh, it's Victor. He's like the magic guy, but he's also dying. So, and she's like,
I knew he was dying because of the hospital bed. Yeah, I didn't need tarot cards.
You asshole. Unlike your pea brain who has to go through 7 layers of art, it's like the Chad version meme where I'm like explaining like all this intricacy. You're like, he was on a hospital bed. What a dick move, dude. What the fuck?
This is all staying in.
Okay, beautiful. I love that. That was actually pretty funny.
All right, so then we just get a fight scene with Vi and Savika. It's pretty all right.
I kind of like how she's not using shimmer, and it's like steroids or whatever. It's not really a metaphor, but it's just like... No, Vi isn't using Shimmer.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like just her raw strength. You show she's a good fighter. She's beating her even without using the funny purple steroids.
Yeah, and as they're fighting, Savika reveals that Powder is alive. Powder is now Jinx. Jinx works for Silco, and then stabs Vi.
Yeah.
And then Caitlyn comes in, shoots Savika only in the metal arm, saves the day. Savika runs away.
Only in the metal? I didn't notice that. I heard the clank, but I didn't register that in my head. She shot the metal arm?
Yeah, every single.
She's an awful shot. What the fuck?
She shot her 3 times. Every time, first shot breaks the vial of shimmers. Next 2 shots would just ding ding. Also, when
Caitlyn,
we were watching
the heart.
When we were watching Act 1, I noticed we see Savika's arm blown off in the explosion.
I didn't even notice that. That's crazy.
Well, it's such
you
a
saw
small
the
detail.
rewatch.
There's so much happening. Yeah. It's a very emotional scene, so I only on a rewatch did I notice it.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, that's a cool detail. It keeps going with this show.
Yeah.
You just there's so much that went into production with this.
Yeah.
The thing that really bothers me about Caitlyn though, because you see in the training thing, from the very beginning of the episode, she's a really good shot. So she aimed at the arm.
Yeah, I think that's supposed to talk to her character, where she aimed at her arm, non-lethal. She wanted to disable, not kill. Because I think killing is kind of off the table for Caitlyn right now.
It does coolly tie in, though, because at the very beginning of the episode, it's what do you shoot for, Caitlyn? This is the answer. Protecting. She literally shoots to protect someone.
Yeah.
Simple, but it's a cool tie-in, and I was like, oh, it all ties together. I fucking love this show. It's great.
So anyways, we cut to Jinx is continuing to work on some hex tech. Savika crawls into Silco's office, and then she reveals that Vi is back, and then we cut to end of episode.
Yeah, and importantly, Jinx also finishes harnessing hex tech here, I think.
Yes, she does.
So she's just really happy with herself. It's a victory moment.
She's in her workshop though. She doesn't hear that Vi is back.
Yeah, she's in just whatever engine room that she throws bombs off of, so I imagine her hearing's not very good with the music going.
Well, loud music, bombs.
Bombs?
So episode 6?
Yeah. I didn't like this one as much.
It was good. I really liked it because it had Singed. I love Singed.
I didn't really get to know much about him in this episode, but yeah, he was here.
Well, we get to uncover more about him than we did in the first act. We know what he's about. He's unethical science.
Yeah. I do like how it reinforces Victor's mad science kind of angle. We'll get into that later as we go on. But
yeah, we actually start the episode off with a flashback. There's some Undercity kids just playing in a creek or something. And Victor's just sitting there all on his own, still as the cane as a child, and he's making a little toy boat.
He's literally a whole cliff down too. It's not like he's just off to the side. He's in his own separate pen making his boat.
Yeah, and it's not the feeling that people are excluding him. It's he's off doing his own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And people just don't want to join him. And he's fine with that.
Yeah. It's not like he's bullied. He's just he only has one working leg. How's he going to swim?
Yeah. So he winds up the toy and puts it in the river, and then he chases it down the river. And he chases it into a cave where he meets Singed and his mutated creature that he calls Rio.
That is also the name
just holding the boat
of one of your D&D characters. So I was like, oh, that's funny.
Who died?
Yeah. This one doesn't. Also, though, Rio is dying.
Hey, there's the through line.
Hey.
So Singed just looking at the boat, and he's like, "Oh shit, you made this?" He's impressed, and we learn that Singed is trying to save Rio because he is mutated, and he's just constantly says this mutation must survive. And Victor offers to help, and then we just kind of end the flashback.
Yeah, I do. By the way, there's a little detail. As a kid, you see his assistant taking interest in Victor. And he's still Sigma grind set. I ain't talking to women. I want my boat. I love him. She's like, you want to play with us? He's like, nah, bitch.
Boat time.
Boat. fucking love him, dude. Yeah, like the flashback doesn't really mean much now, but later it comes back.
It sets up for later.
It's the best part of this episode.
It's the setup to the payoff.
Yeah. Victor's backstory and everything involving Victor, I think, is the best part of this episode. Straight up.
Yeah. So we cut to the present. We're overlooking that rock that the girl was from. Present day, Victor's sitting there, and then Heimerdinger approaches him. And Heimerdinger gives his condolences. He's heard about his condition. And so they kind of just sit here. They have this talk about death and legacy, whereas Victor doesn't say it out loud, but it's kind of implied where he's just like, you lived 200 years. How could you understand how close death really is? Or if you lived for over 200 years, how can you truly understand how short my life is?
Yeah, but at the same time, like, Heimerdinger is like, I have seen countless students across my very long life. You're one of the brightest. You will have a legacy. Tries to reassure him in that way, but, you know, there is a distance.
But he doesn't think his current legacy is enough. It's but a droplet or something, he says.
Yeah, his potential could be, like, so much more.
Yeah. Mel's painting.
Oh, yeah.
Mel's really good at painting. I really like how the oil looks in this art style.
You know what's funny is, like, because the show is already kind of oily, it's kind of like she's just painting, like, photorealistically.
It's funny.
And she's just really good at painting.
She paints another painting later, and it looks so cool. It might be the same painting that she finishes up, actually. Yeah, it's boats. Jace comes in. He apologizes for disappearing after sex, and then he reveals that Victor is dying. And we kind of get this sense of, like, hopelessness that Jace has, because he can't save Victor's life, whereas when Victor saved his life before, when Jace was going to kill himself, Victor stopped that, and he can't do anything to pay that back. And this is when Mel reveals that she's in exile.
Wow. Oh, what? No, we didn't say that last episode.
So Victor, then, do you have anything to say about that scene?
Not really. Just that it's nice that Mel is like, oh yeah, you didn't just run out of me like a scumbag. Like, your friend was dying. I'm sorry for judging you like that.
That is an acceptable disappearance post-sex.
I understand why my dick has left me. It is acceptable. So that was nice. There was no misunderstanding garbage there. It was just straightforward.
So Victor's on that grind set. Mm-hmm. He has more visions, and he sees that the Hextech reacted to his blood. So he tries to grab the cube, and then we just cut away. Like, he touched it once, and it kind of, like, rejected him. But he's like, fuck that, I'm grabbing it. And we cut away to Jinx fucking around with a bartender. It's really funny. She's just scaring the shit out of this guy for no reason. Like, what did this poor man do?
This is the best quirky scene of Jinx in the whole show so far. It's good.
So she asks what Silco's up to. I didn't really write about a whole lot about the conversation. I did write that at the end she plants a fake bomb on him.
Yeah. It's like a little paintball bomb to scare the shit out of him like he's gonna die.
It's the first bomb that hasn't been a real bomb we've seen this act. So I was straight up just like, oh, he's dead.
Yeah, I was like, this is fucking terrifying. And then he just is fine. It's like a little gag. Like, you're doing great, Chuck. She leaves.
It's not Chuck.
This is where I feel like she's become more fully formed. And I was like, that's why I thought, like, oh, she's, like, fully Jinx now. And she's not. We go, like, a little bit later.
Yeah, that's all just...
But it felt like it was leading up to that, like you said, where it was, like, the baptism thing. And it just was like, why didn't you commit?
Fuck you.
Why is this here? I do like how she literally just teleports, basically, this entire scene. And we do find out Vi and Caitlyn are ordered to be killed because, you know, Silco now is like, what? They're alive? And in the Undercity? Ah!
Wow!
And Jinx is sad that she was told to stay home and not told about it. So,
speaking of Vi, she's bleeding out while they're escaping. We kind of just cut to that, and then we cut to Savika back in Silco's office. She walks in and says something shitty about Jinx, but turns out Jinx is in the chair. And Savika ends up popping a trap with some like gas that knocks her out. And then she gets tied up and interrogated by Jinx, but she's pretty happy to give up the information that Jinx. She tells Jinx that Vi is back and that she's looking for her, but she also implants this idea that Caitlyn is a replacement for her.
Yeah.
Which
she's threatened.
It comes up at the end of the episode, especially.
But we see her like crack a little bit, and I'm like, no, she's not developed yet.
Nope.
All right. I mean, I like that we're getting more development, but it's like just cut out the,
cut out.
We've said it like 4 times.
Got it out.
Anything else about the office scene other than like she's competent and like tied her up real well?
No.
Because I like when we go into Marcus's house and Timo is on the little children's books.
He's considering his options. He's sitting here considering his options. He's got the grenade on his desk. He's got the portrait on the desk. He's kind of just considering. And then he hears his daughter laughing, so he goes to check up on it. And he sees Silco is just in his house playing with his daughter. And I do like the thug being super invested in the children's book. That was really funny.
With Timo on it. I love Timo in it. Let's go. I don't like Timo that much. Yeah.
And so Silco is here. He's upset that Marcus didn't tell him that Vi is alive. And the whole point of the scene is, I can just waltz in here and kill your daughter, pretty much.
Yeah. Gotta obey me. Also, Vi and Caitlyn, Vi was supposed to be dead, and she's down in the underground again. Don't fuck up again. I have my methods. I did like, by the way, how he was just a dick and just knocked over his kid's tower.
Oh yeah, it was just like, oopsie, accidents happen. Like I think Marcus knows that, but he's just like, you don't gotta be a dick to the kid.
Yeah, it's symbolic. Like you're gonna kill the kid maybe if Marcus acts up, but like, yeah, it's like why you gotta be a dick to the kid? That's just an extra layer of evil. It's nice, but it's just like, still fuck Silco. That was a nice tower.
You would think he wouldn't do that after he'd become a father figure of his own.
Yeah, that's the weird thing too. I didn't even really think about that, but he's just he's just not a good father. He just has no respect for any kids other than his own.
You think he'd do that to Jinx's tower? No, I don't think so.
No.
So why the fuck you do that to?
Well, if he did it to Jinx,
Rin's tower.
If he did it to Jinx's tower, it'd probably explode because it's made out of like grenades or something. So maybe he doesn't knock it over.
Then we cut to Victor fucking around with some plants and hex tech, trying to merge them in order to find some way to cure him. And Jace is all for it. Jace, now what I was saying is Jace was kind of apprehensive before about how dangerous things were, but now that his friend is dying, I think he's willing to throw those apprehensions away in order to pursue a path that will save his friend. But the problem is they can't get the plants to stay alive after the transmutation with the hex tech. And so they're trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
Then Caitlyn carries Vi into some building in the lowest part of the Undercity, where people basically have the equivalents of like leprosy.
Oh, also, Heimerdinger with the magic, he was like, no.
Well, we're not there yet.
Oh, am I not?
I have it written down.
Oh, well, oops. Yeah, I skipped a little ahead. My bad.
They kind of just come down. We see them escape to the lowest part of the Undercity, where just all of the outcasts are. They're deceased and not a good place. Literally the lowest part of the entire region.
It's also, I like how it's just very barren and like dusty and kind of gray. Where it's
just dark.
There's literally nothing. It's not even a city. It's a husk that people live in. Maybe some tents.
Yeah, it's like a shanty town.
Mm-hmm.
So then Heimerdinger he comes in and sees what they're working on, and he is disgusted by the organic tech, where he has flashbacks of the destruction that they could cause. And he also mentions that the core is actively changing Victor, so he wants it to be destroyed. Heimerdinger does.
Mm-hmm.
And it's around this time where Victor, he starts saying that he knows a guy who could help, which, singed.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh.
There you go.
And at this point, Caitlyn goes out to find some help for Vi.
Was
And she's approached by a familiar figure from the first episode. It's the little mousy merchant.
Yeah, he's he's like the guy I really liked from episode 1, where he's like, you know, you said it was 10,000 gold, and Vander like owed him his life. Now he's got like a really gross purple tumor on his head from the Shimmer.
Yeah,
I feel bad for
Shimmer
him.
fucks you up apparently.
It fucks you up. At least like when it's not
he takes
control.
her to someone.
Because it's like,
Yeah.
What was her name? Like Melinda or whoever with the metal arm.
Savika.
Yeah. Melinda. It's like hers is like concentrated. I forgot to mention this in the last episode. It's like concentrated dosage that is like leaked into her arm. Like she doesn't go full berserk mode. She just gets like little power ups from it.
Yeah,
it's like
and she's not an addict.
Yeah. Versus like the people in this little like underground are literally addicted and have like deformations from them.
And they even bring up why, because they said that this guy says he wanted to feel powerful, and feeling powerful isn't a problem that Savika has.
Yeah. I didn't even like really think about that dichotomy, but it is really cool. Like I liked how the squirrely guy had like a motivation. I don't remember his name because it was so long ago, but
yeah, I might have it written somewhere. I don't care enough to look it up.
It's like on page 1 of a 10-page note document, but he was really like not a powerful person, and for him to like crave power like that at any cost really makes sense, where he's just like, just once I don't want to be bullied and have power over people. That was nice.
Yeah. He takes her to someone that sells potions, and she actually sells her gun for the potion.
Yeah, how did she get that back in League of Legends, by the way? Like, when does that happen? Did she get the gun back?
I mean, she probably gets a new one made.
She has a lot of money, I guess.
Yeah, she's nobility.
My bad. She does. I think that's a cool self-sacrificing thing. Is like, I imagine it's a very similar, if not like the same rifle she used like in training. So it's like she's literally giving up a very prized possession both to her and just a weapon is valuable.
Yeah.
And so the potion is just, it'll heal Vi. I don't know how that works, but it's cool.
It's a health potion. What, 50 gold? Restores...
Her weapon's only worth 50 gold.
What, it restores 150 over 10 seconds? I don't know. Who cares?
Is the place that Vi is staying, by the way, it's implied to be like her childhood, like, bunker. Is this entire place...
It's a hideout of Minnie, I think.
Oh, okay. Because we've seen that hideout before. They would just
play it around. I don't think we've seen this one before.
I thought I remember, like, the spiral staircase in some way, but...
We might have.
Maybe it's different. Because I was like, I thought it was implied to be somewhere we had seen before, but I didn't really recognize it. So, you're probably right.
I would believe if it's somewhere we haven't seen before, just because it's just assumed that they're kids. They'll run around all over the place.
Yeah, and this is like a really dark part of the city we haven't seen before. I either assumed that it was the same city and it got really bad or something, or it was a different part we hadn't seen before.
This shantytown didn't exist like this until people started becoming Shimmer addicts.
Yeah.
And Shimmer didn't exist when they were children until the end of Act 1.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Anyways, we cut to Marcus makes the decision. He gives the grenade to Jace, and he says it was the firelights. And then he basically says the only thing that we could really do is lock down the bridges, which are the only method to get between the Undercity and Piltover. Basically just cutting off the two classes altogether.
And Jace goes full totalitarian.
He just says do it.
For the safety. It doesn't even really feel corrupt yet, which I like, because it's like, it's kind of
He doesn't know the consequences. He doesn't understand the scale.
At least to me, it feels like he is doing corrupt things, but not really understanding. It's not like he has a character flip switch in a couple other things I've seen. But...
Silco!
I was just going to say Ruby, but yeah, Silco too.
Oh. Yeah.
Silco literally is a flip of the switch, but... yeah, I like how it's impacting Jace's character, but it's not like he just is suddenly evil or something. It's just he's doing bad things and he hasn't realized that they're that bad, or he doesn't care as much. He's like, greater good. And
Oh, we also this is when Marcus confronts Jace that Caitlyn used Jace's clearance to release Vi.
yeah, and so when he was like, no, I've got it covered, I thought that meant like he knew about it.
No, I think what he's saying is, don't you worry about that. I will address this as a personal matter to Caitlyn.
That makes sense to me too.
Because I don't want to make this a thing of a cop against a cop. I want this to be a thing between friends. I feel like that's how he wants to handle his battles.
Yeah, and also like keeping Caitlyn safe and in a controlled like way of being able to like punish her for doing a bad thing and being like, well, you can't do that, but I'm gonna punish you in a way that isn't gonna ruin your life. Hopefully.
Yeah, their trust and friendship is built up so that he's not going to do anything to permanently ruin her record.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I think that's why he wants to take control of the situation like that. Is, you know, he doesn't know what Marcus is gonna do. He doesn't know what the rest of the law is gonna do. He's like, I'm a councilman. You know, I want to make sure she's okay. I don't know what she did.
And speaking of the council, we cut to a council meeting where Heimerdinger is trying to convince the council that Jace's research is becoming immoral. That's the point he's trying to get to, but he kind of gets interrupted by Jace, where he argues that under Heimerdinger's guidance, nothing has really been solved. He pushes forward the movement that Heimerdinger needs to be retired, where he's done enough. He deserves a little rest. He tries to say it like that, but he wants him out of the way. And the council, since he's negotiated and has deals with all of them, they agree unanimously.
It all pays off. All the deals behind Heimerdinger's head. It's crazy.
Yeah. Then Caitlyn gives Vi the potion, and it works.
Yeah. I also, about Heimerdinger, I do like how it's not that, like, from their position, Heimerdinger is really old-fashioned and just doesn't get how humans live. But from Heimerdinger's position, he has lived, like, eons. He's a literal history book, and he's like...
He is trying to stop history from repeating itself.
He knows something much larger than the scale of humans can comprehend. And yet they're all relatively young, so they're just like, fuck you. You don't get it. Hex tech, it's going to improve our lives.
Wheel grandpa out of here.
Go put him in the nursing home, give him some pudding, put on his show, put on Lone Ranger. Go watch. Yeah. I do like just that betrayal. I was not expecting it. It came out of nowhere for me, but it felt really symbolic and good.
It was good. So then Vi talks about Powder, and, she doesn't reveal really who Powder was, but just that she has a sister. And they talk about their upbringing, and Caitlyn asks, why didn't Vi know if Powder was alive or not? Don't you have parents? And then she talks about how her parents were killed by enforcers. And so I think that lets Caitlyn understand the kind of power that the organization she works under has.
Yeah, and I also like, because it's not like Vi is really intentionally leaving Caitlyn out, because Vi doesn't really know who Jinx is. Like, she knows her as Powder, so the Jinx is like a separate killer. She doesn't know the
entity of Jinx.
Yeah. Even though she gave her name, technically, it's like Vi's been in prison for however many years. She just doesn't really know, like, Powder was alive or has changed and gone under their pseudonym. So it's just like they're talking behind each other's back. It plays in later too, but it's just like, it feels like one of those misunderstandings that's like, yeah, makes sense. It's a good one.
So anyways, the ex-merchant sold Vi and Caitlyn out to Silco for some more shimmer.
Oh yeah, because he, like, you can see him nervously taking some. It's like, come on, dude. You felt bad for him, but ugh.
Yeah. So Vi just says, fuck this, punches the building, and it collapses.
That was so cool. I was expecting like a fight, and she's just like, water tower, go down.
Then we cut to Jinx, like, considering this flare that she was given when she was still Powder. That Vi said whenever you use this that she'd come and help. And so she ends up lighting it. And I really like the song that plays. It's definitely one of the more fitting featured artist songs.
Yeah, this one's pretty good.
Milo and Clagger being there really helped bring it together.
Yeah, I don't know how
Because
Clagger
it's like they're
fit.
all crying out.
Yeah.
The weight of Bilo and Clagger's death are really crying out.
I don't know how Clagger fit on there, but it was impressive. Like, it was a cool shot. I liked how it was like Powder Jinx is not like one person really. She's like it's like her legacy calling out to Vi, like her last remnant of being Powder and not Jinx.
Yeah.
Also, it looks gorgeous too. This is like a really really nice shot.
Silco throws a tantrum while the song plays, and Vi and Caitlyn get away.
Yeah,
we
that's
see
good.
The bridge starts to get closed as the Undercity is quarantined off from Piltover. And as Caitlyn and Vi are running away, we see that she sees the flare.
Yeah.
And then as the song comes to an end, we cut to... Or do you have anything else to say about that?
Just that she can't get to it, but like from, it looks like from Jinx's position that Vi's just not going to come because like she's betraying her. But Vi...
we haven't gotten to there yet. We haven't really gotten to the flare running out yet. This flare is still kind of lit, and we just see Vi look up at the flare.
Yeah, I was just connecting it because Vi, it's clear that she sees the flare, and it's not that she doesn't want to go save Powder, it's just that she's running away from death, and it's like, that's not a priority right now. We'll get there. At least that's what I thought. And then, she actually does get up there eventually, but I thought it was kind of like interesting where I got it faked out into thinking they weren't going to meet a little bit.
Yeah, but before that, we cut to a flashback as Victor goes to Sinja's workshop when he agreed to be his assistant, and he sees this grotesque experiment on Rio. So he just runs away because he doesn't. He's not vibing with this.
Rio
and then
is
we
just
get a
filled
really
with
cool
pipes.
scene. We get this really cool scene where adult Victor is now approaching him, saying that now he understands, and I really like that.
That was really cool. And I do, again, with like the grossness, whatever, where it's like fear and shock. It has to be a line between being grotesque and being like just shocking. I liked how Rio was hooked up to Shimmer, like piped up, and it was like really sad, but it wasn't like horrifying. We kind of cut away from it quickly, and like Rio is then in like a lab tube being studied, like a little what would you call that, where it's like in a soup lab vial
like
thing,
tank.
Yeah, like a tank that's filled with stuff, so it's like been refined a little bit. And Victor, because he needs that basically. He needs life support at any cost, and he's like, I get it. And I thought that it was going to be the end when the flashback ended, and it was really cool how he came back. Like, that was just cool. I thought he wasn't going to come back to Singed at all. I thought it was done. Like, it would just be revealed, that he's scared of it. But yeah, that's it. I'm getting tired, man.
So then we cut to Silco's office as he sees Savika is tied up in the ceiling, and Jinx has written "liar" on her arm. So that's kind of the end of Silco for the act. So
I like the map being
shaky
3D
ground.
too.
What'd you say?
Because you can see that like Jinx is trying to get to the highest point, and to make that on map, she just puts like a pipe on his desk and draws an arrow up. Thought it was pretty good. That was basically it for that.
And then we cut to Jinx as her flare is running out, and she looks disappointedly at it. But we see behind her, Vi climbs up the stairs, and they have a nice emotional moment as they finally meet again. And Jinx, during this, she drops the gemstone in order to hug her back.
Mm-hmm.
And she's kind of scared that Vi is just another hallucination. And so I thought that was a good touch.
Yeah, like, are you real?
This emotional moment.
And then Vi's like, I'm realer than you could ever imagine. She doesn't say that, but that sentiment of just like, I am real. Don't ever doubt that. I'm back for you, Powder.
I'm back, baby.
And so, she's like, I'm not Powder, I'm Jinx. And then Caitlyn's like, you're Jinx? You're whatever.
No, Caitlyn hasn't caught up yet.
I didn't think there was much in between.
She mentions that she is Jinx now, and then Caitlyn catches up, and Jinx pulls her gun on her, asking who she is. And then Caitlyn pieces it together that Jinx is Vi's sister. And she starts to lose it, even like holding the gun up and like spinning the barrel at Vi.
Yeah, because Jinx is
and
like...
she starts hallucinating all over the place.
Yeah, you betrayed me. Like, what's her name again? The bodyguard.
Savika.
Savika. was not lying. Caitlyn is there, so she must be my replacement. Can't believe you did this to me, Vi. And so it's like the double like betrayal between them. So yeah.
Yeah. And this is when the Firelights come in, and they attack, and Jinx and Vi have to work together to fight them off. And during this whole fight, Vi starts noticing that Jinx is enjoying herself a little bit too much. And
punching, like when someone's down, she keeps on like hitting them with a gun, and she's like, all right.
Yeah, she's kind of going overboard.
Mm-hmm.
And then, do you have anything to say about the fight?
I mean, I'm pretty sure Echo is the leader. It's not revealed, but like he has like a time gear staff, and he takes Vi away without killing her. And so like I'm excited to see where that goes in Act 3. But I do like how Vi kind of recognized that Jinx has lost her humanity, is not really her sister as much anymore, and is some kind of abomination.
Yeah, and before we get there, I just wanted to say that the act ends by Vi getting kidnapped by the Firelights.
Yeah.
And presumably Caitlyn too, because she kind of just disappears.
I just assumed Caitlyn ran away, but yeah, she probably... she either got captured or whatever. But I thought she ran away with the gemstone, personally.
Yeah.
But
so what were you saying about Powder or Vi and Jinx?
that was it. Just that she gets kidnapped, but like before she passes out and gets taken by the Firelights, she's just like, that's not really my sister anymore. That's like some kind of monster that enjoys, you know, she still loves her or whatever. I was surprised by that, but because I didn't think they were going to come. I thought they were still like on bad terms a little bit, but they both thought each other were dead. So that makes sense. They were just happy to see each other again. But it definitely feels like Vi is realizing Jinx is a little scary. And she might be a little bit beyond saving at this point. Corruption's running a little deep. Overall with this episode, I did not enjoy it all that much. It felt much like a setup episode. Things happened, they were interesting. It was all right. But like the directing style was completely gone with a lot of it. There were some cool shots, but like generally, whereas episode 4 and 5 were like really outstanding with their visuals, this felt really lackluster.
This had to be an episode to set up for the final act.
Yeah, and that was what I was really
kind of
worried about Act 2
episode.
going in. Was like Act 2, I was just like, 4 and 5 surprised me. Where I was like, this just feels like fantastic, and then 6 just felt like this is the setup episode for shit goes down later. And
I don't know. There was still a lot of payoff in this episode, like Jinx and Vi getting back together.
Oh, there was, but that was really short lived, and it felt like an excuse to just kind of let them know like that they can meet up again, versus like a glimpse of the future more than like payoff in the moment. There were some things like that, like with Silco being temporarily stopped. Vi doesn't die. That is a payoff. Marcus going to Jace and setting up like this. It's like the payoffs feel more like setups than payoffs, but there are some there. This definitely was the epitome of like right before Act 3 kind of episode.
Definitely.
I was surprised by it being, because I figured it would be like episode 5 would be that, but episode 6 really was that.
Do you want to do predictions?
I guess, but there's not much. I've seen a little bit.
Let me tell you, I wrote down where everyone's at. So, Vi and Caitlyn captured.
Yep.
Jinx is alone. Silco and Jinx's relationship is rather shaky. Jace and Marcus lock down the bridge. Victor approaches Singed. Heimerdinger is removed from council. Echo?
Yeah, I have seen, you've shown me a little bit before I was planning on watching the show, because I was like, you League of Legends, and you're like,
because whenever I want to show Wells something, I always have to entice him with something a little juicy.
Yeah.
So I showed him the bridge scene with Jinx and Echo.
So I know that's going to happen at some point, and that they are not on good terms. I knew that going into Act 1. A lot of it was, one, EU League of Legends, and I didn't think it was going to be good, but also I don't have the best track record with people showing me things necessarily. Not that they show me bad things, but they move at a different pace than I want to personally. So getting over a lot of that is what I've been doing, and it's been kind of hard. But yeah, Act 3. Anyways, long story short, that fight looks really good. So Echo comes back. That's not really a prediction, but
okay,
yeah,
that's just you know.
That's just I know. And he's gonna fight Jinx.
How is he affiliated? Do you think? I think you would say you think he's Firelight.
Firelight. I saw, and this is because osmosis information from Nick talking about League all the fucking time.
I say Echo's a time boy.
Echo's a time boy. He has a gear and a staff. Boy. And he works on clocks.
Oh, fun fact. Never mind, I can't tell you that yet.
That's a really fun fact, Nick. Can't wait for that one.
You're welcome. All right, Vi and Caitlyn.
Vi and Caitlyn.
What's gonna happen to them?
I've seen in the opening they fight. I see Vi, so she's gonna get her gauntlets, right? Vi, I'm gonna write these down too as I'm going. Like Vi gets her gauntlets.
How do you think that will occur?
Through Caitlyn sneaking her in to Jace's lab. Would be my guess.
Okay.
Jace, I think, is gonna go like against everyone, including like Caitlyn and everything, who have gone behind his back and be like, for the greater good of the city, stand the fuck down and go to prison.
Okay.
We have a hex tech problem. Guards, these are wanted criminals. Maybe after having a talk with Caitlyn or something, they have like a moment of, excuse me, problem. You are giving me a pain in the ass. Hex tech needs a future. Victor, I think, well, he's gonna work with Singed a little bit. I've seen he has a later form. I don't know if it's gonna pop up in Act 3 or not, but he gets a spooky mask. He gets like kind of robot-y. I think he's gonna be hooked up to some like Singed shit, and he's gonna become like semi-villain maybe. And like,
how do you think Jace will react to that?
I think he'll be kind of fine with it. However, I think Victor and Jace are going to be on their own separate sides. Like, Victor's going to develop Hex Tech one way, Jace is going to develop it another way. Like, Victor's going to go more and more in on it. Jace is going to be more like the commercial, like, we have what we have, let's refine it and take it, like, the non-organic way of, like, you know,
so kind machines. Of following Heimerdinger's advice a little bit.
A little bit.
Where refine rather than develop.
Yeah, refine it, and he's going to go, like, more the machine route, like, you know, Vi's gauntlets or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe even, actually, I think Vi's going to steal him, but, like, there's also a possibility that, like, Jace meets up and is like, okay, you want to defend the city against your sister Jinx or whatever, like, wield the gauntlets or whatever. I think she's going to steal him, though. Okay. Jinx, I don't fucking know. She's just gonna be on a bridge at some point.
Jinx is a fucking wild card. That's her whole character.
Literally, that's her whole character. She's gonna go up and be like, I want to bomb Surface World, I think. That's about it.
So she is going to be active to fight against Piltover.
Not with Silco's. I think Silco's gonna have like a final push on Piltover in some way. That's what's gonna start like a war. But I think Jinx is just gonna be like a rogue, separate from Silco. Just be like, haha, just fucking blow it up, get more blue. Whatever. I don't know what Jinx wants.
What is Silco going? So Silco's going to be pushing. That's what you said. What do you think Heimerdinger will be up to?
I have no idea.
Or do you think he'll fall off the plot relevancy?
I thought he was going to fall off, all honesty. He's kind of done. He might just be there like watching the war and be like, or tell Jace, be like, no, you can't, you're magic, no, don't do it. And maybe he's like seeing it in horror and he's like, no, it's gonna blow up my city.
Stop.
No, please, I don't want the magic. Like that.
Anything with Mel?
It's fuck Mel.
Okay.
That's what Jace is planning to do.
The plan.
Yeah. Echo, I think, is just the Firelight, whatever. He's gonna lead part of the rebellion on Surface World as well. Like, it's gonna be 3 factions, like 2v1, like the entire of Piltover versus Silco's purple goo faction, who's kind of allied with the Firelights, who are just kind of...
So you think they're going to work together?
Not officially, just that they're both attacking Piltover at the same time, and they're just like, oh, whatever.
Okay, so Piltover has to deal with an assault on two fronts.
Basically, yeah. That's my plan.
Okay.
Idea. And then somehow Echo makes Jinx, and then he does the cool, like, Imagine Dragons beat up on the bridge. He puts in, like, his mixtape, like, Guardians of the Galaxy. He turns on his tunes.
God damn it.
Oh, favorite and least favorite character.
What song is... What 90s song is there? It's not 90s. When... He listened to 90s songs, right? What 90s song does Echo put on?
Oh, you mean Chris Pratt, whatever his name is, Star-Lord?
Yeah. Well, Echo, what does he do with the Chris Pratt?
It'd be like an 80s song, I think is what he listens to typically. Sometimes 90s. I'd like to see him do a beatdown to Footloose. That'd be pretty funny. Oh, God,
I was trying to think of like a time-based one, and I just couldn't. If I could turn back time.
To the old days. Imagine if they actually got that song.
I literally had it in my head, and then you sang that instead.
Oh, I was imagining that because it's like they want to go back to being friends.
If I could turn back time, I could find a way.
It's not an 80s song. I was just thinking about the...
Yeah, fuck it.
We could turn back time to the old days. I hate that song so much, dude.
It might have been a little closer to the time period.
Favorite and least favorite characters is probably important, right?
Yeah, who's your favorite?
Because I'm going to do primary and then not primary. Favorite, Victor's getting pretty close. I didn't like Vi as much this act because she did a ton, but she was not as much of a focus as she was in Act 1.
Yeah.
I'm not really factoring that in. I'm just going to say for Act 2. It's either Victor or Jinx, actually. I love them both a lot. I'm surprised by both of them.
Is that primary and secondary? Like a primary character and a secondary character?
Yeah, like favorite primary, favorite secondary, least favorite of the two.
Okay. Who's your favorite secondary?
Favorite secondary, Marcus is starting to grow on me a little bit. He still sucks, but like, you know, he's growing a little bit. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. Echo wasn't here. So he's probably least favorite of this
That's
act.
A cop-out.
It is a cop-out. I will give another answer, but if it's not Echo, who literally fucking did nothing, it was not here. I don't know why it wasn't here.
He was on tour with that was a shitty joke I made before we started recording. I said, "Hey, I found out why Echo wasn't here," and I sent him the True Damage music video, and I was like, "He was on tour
this whole time." Oh no! And he was like touring. Like the set in that is literally just the same city though, so he was just there, but he was singing.
I'd say my favorite character was Victor. Favorite primary. Favorite secondary is a tough one.
It is, because there's not many secondary left.
I liked Mel pushing Jace a lot. I liked how she pushed and nudged him into taking the position that he's in more.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked her switch from like, you're a tool to we have a relationship now. We'll see how that develops in Act 3.
If we're going off of like secondary can be any minor character, Fish Guy.
That's a tertiary character.
He's a good one. I like him.
I felt like Mel was a proper secondary character.
Yeah, but there's only like 3 of those in this show, it feels like. Where it's like you're either primary or you're not. Or you're Mel. And Marcus.
It's Singed.
Singed. Yeah, but Singed fucking doesn't do much.
Yeah, but I love him.
He is pretty good. He makes the Mountain Dew.
Least favorites?
Least favorite primary. I was really debating because it's like it's either Caitlyn or Jace. Jace, I feel like, is gonna get a really big payoff in Act 3. And I think that's why I didn't have a lot to like about him this one. I really like Caitlyn as a character. Well, I like all of them. The primary characters are all really good this act. I just mean least favorite is hard. It's either Caitlyn.
Well, I got a least favorite primary. It's Caitlyn.
maybe Vi though. I've gone through all of them, but it's like Vi really was just kind of like tough and punch
Now that you mention it, Vi, yeah, she did things through actions, and she drove the plot through actions, but she kind of just spout a bunch of one-liners when she was with Caitlyn.
Yeah, Vi was just one-liners and static character to help Caitlyn grow, which is why I think, because it took me a minute to like kind of comprehend that. I think Vi is probably my least favorite primary of this act. She was my favorite, I think, of the first act, but she just did not do anything this one. She was kind of
I like
nothing.
Jason the first act.
I mean, other than Echo, who literally wasn't there. You know, I do like Jace a lot. It just felt like he's transitioning, right? I think I like Vi more for the first act than the second act. Was my problem.
I'd say
carrying
least
over.
favorite secondary for me might be Heimerdinger. There's cool symbology that happens around him.
Oh, I forgot about
him
Heimerdinger.
Personally, just kind of spouts the same old thing. His whole point in the plot has just been like
static.
Yeah, it's been pretty static.
Hey
he's
guys,
had some
magic
moments
dangerous.
that are nice. He's allowed characters to grow, but he himself has been a little lackluster.
I honestly forgot he was in the story. He's technically like primary character status in that like he is a League of Legend. Whatever that means.
That's not how I counted it.
Champion.
I was thinking outside of just what is a primary or secondary character in a story.
He is the secondary character in the story. I was just saying for such a big character, he is a secondary character, and I forgot about him. So he's the worst.
Literally, Echo didn't show up in this part.
Yeah. Well, that's his fault. Should have been here. He said he's a cop-out, so... Heimerdinger, I definitely as a secondary character, not... He just doesn't do anything. He's just... he's just there.
He exists as an obstacle, but...
Half the time I just want him to shut up. I'm just like, you don't get it, old man. And that's me as a human. I get it. To a Yordle, he's probably like cool. He's probably like the coolest Yordle, I bet. But as a lowly human, I don't get it. Least favorite tertiary character? I don't even know if I would.
I don't think we need to go into tertiary.
I'm just curious if there
need to go to bed soon.
Or any. Okay, well, we did predictions. We did whatever. Was there something else we did in the first act that we didn't do in this one?
I don't remember really. I don't think so.
All right.
It was mostly predictions overall, and we kind of said from the get-go we didn't have any overall statements.
Other than overall, I think Act 2 is still better than Act 1. Just by a little bit. Just because Episode 5 carries it so hard. That's it. That's my ranking. Act 2, 10 out of 10. See you in Act 3. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.